and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day Devil's Edition. So, welcome to Wednesday. Fancy Brian, great to have you back in the seat of esteem. That is the nicest chair we own, and it's all yours, baby.
Feeling good, Crudy, feeling good.
And we got Evan right here in Madison with me at the Devil Radio World Headquarters. And we got a big show. We got Harvey Kaye joining me later in this hour. He's going to co-devil with me. Brian, Dr. Harvey Kaye. So always great to see him. And lots of topics we're going to cover today. But I want to start with this one. Finally, I have seen evidence of election fraud, and it came from within the White House.
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Election fraud coming from within the White House. Here's what I'm talking about. I reference actually a Kathleen Parker column over at the Washington Post, but the more abridged version that I found at the Raw story. Donald Trump's continued lies about the 2020 presidential election ran into a major roadblock as new evidence emerges of voter fraud. Numerous other states are likewise finding large-scale election fraud and irregularities, Trump said in an inaccurate statement emailed to reporters yesterday. Now, here is what Kathleen Parker wrote about the actual perpetrator of voter fraud. Why it is the chief's chief, the guy that wrote the book, the chief of staff to the former president of the United States, Mark Meadows, in all probability, not yet convicted, but all the evidence points towards committed voter fraud. He and his wife both.
Congratulations.
And they did so from sort of a rickety, rundown white trash trailer in rural North Carolina.
That's
that they claimed was their residence, even though they didn't live there. Here is how Kathleen Parker wrote about it at the Washington Post. Meadows, who went on to serve as Donald Trump's last White House chief of staff, might soon be begging for mercy again if formal investigation finds that he falsified his North Carolina residency just before the 2020 election. As first reported by Charles Bethia of the New Yorker, Meadows allegedly, either you registered or you didn't.
Yeah,
Meadows allegedly registered to vote in September of that year, listing his domicile as a mobile home in Scaly Mountain, North Carolina.
I always figured he'd be a mobile home guy.
It seems, however, that he being Mark Meadows, the chief of staff to the former president, never bothered to live there. Sort of, what do they call those things? Sort of a crap hole.
Okay.
Not a very nice thing. Someone actually drove out there. Some reporter drove out to Scaly Mountain, North Carolina, and took a look at the supposed domicile of Meadows and Mrs. Meadows. Crap hole.
You know how you can tell that place is a crap hole?
No one lives there?
All the bags are made of carpet.
Even if Meadows did vote illegally, I think he did, it would not change the outcome locally or nationally. Well, only Donald Trump would make an implication of that grandiose sort. Again, from Parker at the Post. At long last, ladies and gentlemen, we may finally have evidence of voter fraud in America. And it comes from the Trump White House of all places. For the past 2 years, Meadows has echoed Trump's assertions that the 2020 election was fraudulent and has spoken richly about voter corruption caused by people just moving around. You mean like Mr. and Mrs. Mark Meadows?
Wow.
They sold their house in North Carolina, so they didn't have a legal residence with which to vote in their, home state. As he's moved on to DC, right? He's the president's chief of staff.
I'm just throwing this out there. He might be somebody who might benefit from, I don't know, let's say an absentee ballot.
Well, you've got to have a legal voting address
to
absentee vote. You would have to live there before you could be absent from there.
How does he have legal identification now at this point?
Not clear, Fancy Brian. Apparently he doesn't.
Because did he show his ID when he voted? I don't know. But this is a lot of questions.
That makes a great point. So did he actually go and perpetrate in-person voter fraud, or did he do it by absentee ballot?
Either way, probably fraud.
Here is, as Parker wrote, loss of confidence in our elections is no small thing. Both liberals and conservatives list election integrity in the top 4 or 5 issues of the greatest concern, according to Jason Steed, executive director of the nonpartisan Honest Elections Project. Well, I like the name at least. When politicians abuse the very system they purport to protect or otherwise benefit by claiming fraud where none exists, they deserve no leniency from the courts or the public, even if what Meadows is alleged to have done may seem minor in the scheme of things. Such actions pose a real threat to election integrity and therefore democracy. Now, those are Kathleen Parker's words at the Washington Post. But there you go. We finally got some evidence of voter fraud. Mark Meadows.
You know what?
And perhaps his wife as well.
I might even go as far as to say that this guy and people who support him might be even hypocritical. But then again, next thing you know, you're going to tell me that Snoop Dogg was smoking weed before the Super Bowl. So, I mean, what is this world coming to?
I know, man. Also in the news, back in the news, Russia.
Oh, I was worried.
Apparently Donald Trump hosted a chess tournament where, a lot of Russians participated, specifically 2 grandmasters, and Putin's press secretary just happened to be there, sort of a spy pit. And there were indictments today. Oh, you're giggling. Like,
I'm just picturing him going, king me.
Well, here's the point. Clearly, it wasn't about the chess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I'm laughing about it.
On Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Justice announced it is charging Alana Branson, a dual Russian and U.S. citizen, with acting and conspiring to act in the United States illegally as an agent of the Russian government, willfully failing to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, as well as conspiring to commit visa fraud and making false statements to the FBI. The indictment illuminates previous government reports on Donald Trump in the 2016 U.S. Chess Championship. Apparently, some of this covered in the Mueller report. Now, we've never seen a fully unredacted Mueller report, but I'm going to tell you what, James Santel has been invited back. He will answer the call on Friday of this week. Fancy Brad, I'm coming down by you in Waukesha. Me, Dom, James Santel. It's going to be
Don't you threaten me.
Legal party, and we're going to ask questions about the Mueller report. Russia. Back to the reporting. Former FIDE, International Chess Federation, you knew that though, President Kirsten, and then a big long Russian name with lots of consonants, invited the Trump Organization to host the 2016 World Chess Championship at Trump Tower. At Trump Tower, no less. This was revealed by Donald Trump himself in the Mueller report, where chess is playing a minor role, and FIDE President Arkady Dvorkovich is also mentioned. Chess.com reported, and I always go to that as a go-to source. Chess.com reported in 2019, the match was eventually held in Manhattan's South Street Seaport. It is known that at least one Russian government official attended. Vladimir Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov. Apparently, investigator Robert Mueller suspected the match might have served as a vehicle for contents between the members of the Trump team and the Russian government officials. Sort of a back channel rendezvous. How could they not suspect that Trump was there for the love of chess?
Sometimes it's your daughter's wedding. Sometimes it's a chess match. It's either way. Can I ask you for a favor though?
More information about the 2016 championship between Magnus Carlsen and Sergei Karjakin was revealed in Branson's indictment, which said she also attempted to arrange meetings for Russian officials at the 2016 World Chess Championship on or about November 10th, 2010, which is also on or about Election Day of 2016. My bad. Branson emailed an advisor to now former president of the United States expressing congratulations for their victory in the presidential election. Again, this is the lady that was charged with being a Russian spy today, expressing congratulations for their victory in the presidential election and attaching an invitation to the World Chess Championships addressed to then President-elect Trump. The criminal complaint alleges on or about November 11th, 2016, Branson was photographed at the World Chess Championship with CC6. That apparently is how they enumerate the individual in the indictment. And second individual who I recognize based on my review of publicly available photographs to be the current press secretary for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Mueller report noted Kirill Dmitriev, the closely connected to Putin's CEO of Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund. Dmitriev undertook efforts to meet members of the incoming Trump administration in the months after the election. Dmitriev asked a close business associate, easy for me to say, who worked for the United Arab Emirates Royal Court, George Nader. You remember Nader? To introduce him to the Trump transition officials, and Nader eventually prearranged a meeting in the Seychelles between Dmitriev and Eric Prince, the Blackwater guy, a Trump campaign supporter and associate of Steve Bannon. I mean, it gets crazier from there.
I'm just picturing, what if Trump ever really wanted to learn chess, and what would happen if someone actually had to teach him? And that's why I keep laughing.
Now,
imagining
Fancy
him
Brian,
trying to learn.
in true Trump-like fashion, Trump denied attending the chess championship. Of course, he didn't go see the chess. Nobody suspected he was a chess fan. He was in it for the Russia. Come back, poor devil's advocates. We're going to have a good time. It's Hump Day.
Danny, this isn't Russia. Is this Russia? This isn't Russia. Is it?
Yeah, I hope. You know what that means, right?
Rebellions are built on hope.
Freedom!
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day Edition. Got Dr. Harvey Kaye joining me next at 3:30. You could sneak a phone call in between now and then at 844-967-2789. But Fancy Brian, I don't know if you'd seen the breaking news. Donald Trump was in an airplane this weekend, did a big rally in New Orleans, flew out Saturday night, got over at the Caribbean, out over the ocean, and the airplane lost an engine.
Wow.
Blew an engine and had to turn around and fly back to New Orleans and hope to make it back to the airport. And I can tell you only one thing for sure. Donald Trump crapped his pants.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. He did. And I've always suspected the man wore Depends. He crapped his Depends.
I got to tell you, those type of things generally have some sort of change on people. But then again, you have to be the kind of person who's receptive to things like, empathetic feelings and emotions besides the things that go through yourself.
Well, this reporting, it was broken at first by the Washington Post. Breaking news, Trump's plane loses motor out over the ocean. Now, this happened Saturday, but just becoming news today because Trump wasn't sharing, perhaps the other personal embarrassment involved with that incident. But he has a message today, and we'll share it in just a minute. But I got to tell you, there were Secret Service agents on that plane, and there were staffers on that plane. And once upon a time, I was flying out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I got an airplane. And John Tesh, John Tesh, Entertainment Tonight guy, and he wrote the Olympic music and some other various things.
If you don't like John Tesh, you actually do like John Tesh, and you don't know it.
Well, he's a Renaissance man of sorts. And I see him sitting there in the first class, and I'm jumping back on the plane back to Wisconsin from Myrtle Beach. Got my daughter, I think maybe the baby, my wife, the whole crew clan, we're all on the plane. And Captain comes on, we're dodging some thunder boomers here. So we're going to do some evasive maneuvers. Sound like a Southern captain. Yeah, it's the only Southern voice I do. So anyways, he starts doing these hard bank turns, 45 degree, and we're turning hard right. And then I'm looking out the windows of the plane, and there are these massive thunderheads going up, 30, 40, 50,000 feet. And there's one to the left of me, one to the right of me, another to the left, and he's so he's flying around. And I'm just thinking to myself, and I'm not a good flyer, but I'm thinking to myself the whole time, my entire family is going to die. And in tomorrow's paper, it's going to say, John Tesh died in an airplane accident. You know how that goes?
Yeah.
If you're the non-famous person on the airplane.
Kind of. Yeah.
And I strongly suspect, the final news of Donald Trump would be, yes, he did crap his pants. I would have crapped my pants. I wouldn't even hold it against him. If I am ever on an airplane that pops a motor, last airplane I'm ever getting on.
Just like people who say, oh, if there is a situation, I'd run in there with a gun, just like that. Nobody can ever tell you what you're going to do, and you can say all you want, but unless you're actually in those situations, you have no idea what you're going to do. You have no idea how you're going to react. Even if that's why they psychologically break you down in the military, to train you to be able to react in an at least an expected way.
Buddy, I was in the military.
I know, that's my point.
I would crap my pants if the plane popped a motor. But let me tell you, as this news is breaking publicly, how the former president of the United States, he has reacted, and I'd like to share it with you in the public.
I'm sure this is going to be heartfelt and amazing.
Former President Donald Trump was flying from New Orleans back to Palm Beach when he was forced to make an emergency landing. Now he's asking his supporters to send him money. In an email, supporters mere hours after the news broke on his travel issues, Trump was asking them to pay for Trump Force One. Do you remember Trump Force One? The email asked. Before becoming the greatest president of all time, I traveled the country in my plane, known as Trump Force One. I have a very important update on my plane, but I need to trust that you won't share it with anyone. My team is building a brand new Trump Force One. A new plane. I hope they're mothballing that last plane. According to the email paid for by Save America JFC, the work on the plane has been under wraps. He claims that the media doesn't know about it. which is false given the reports that he purchased a new engine for the plane and that it had made an emergency landing last year in Nashville. Second emergency landing of the same plane. Trump's plane was his personal ride, likely paid for by his company. So it's unclear if the campaign PAC will be paying for the repairs. Maybe the RNC will take care of that after their legal fees.
They tried to dump they tried to dump the stuff that was flushed in the toilet, and it was really just all a bunch of paper that was shredded, and that was it. That's what messed it up both times.
He's flushing it up. You can't flush stuff in the airplane toilet, Trump.
He doesn't care. It's Trump. He can do whatever he wants. Doesn't matter. He bends physics. It's Trump.
Apparently, logistically, if the PAC that is seeking the money to pay for the plane, if it were to pay for the repairs, it's unclear if that means Trump organization could use it for travel. It might be a conflict. The plane Trump was flying on had the emergency landing over the weekend wasn't his. It's owned by a trustee out of Utah. The Washington Post reported. Trump Force One was repaired in New York after Trump announced last May that he'd bring it back. The emergency landing in Nashville was a short stop, and it was then flown to Louisiana for other repairs. Trump isn't using it, however. Currently, I got to tell you, first thought I had, Trump's on this plane. It's down a motor over the Gulf of Mexico. Doesn't it remind you of like the Big Bopper and Richie Valens and all the you don't you don't see the parallel at all.
I don't want to associate him with anybody that actually had talent. But I do know that he probably grabbed for Ivanka if she was there.
I don't know how to react to that one, because it's true. Come back with us. It's true. We got the finest of guests. We've got Dr. Harvey Kaye. He will join me next. Sorry about the callers. Be patient or call us back. We'll try again in the next hour. We got 3 hours. You can stick around. You're definitely going to want to stick around. Dr. Harvey Kaye is next. More of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Don't Crash the Plane edition.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
I have no idea. I am a peacock! You gotta let me fly!
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. It binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning,
Mr. K, good to see you again. How are you?
Good to see you. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you. You look good. You sound good. It's going to be a good segment.
I'm actually terribly depressed about the war in the Ukraine, but I'm going to think Packers and America right now.
That's how we do it.
It's freezing my butt.
All right, Harvey. Thank you. About 3.5 minutes.
Okie doke.
Next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio.
your free quote, and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, Governor Tony Evers signed on to a letter from a coalition of governors around the nation calling on Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for the remainder of the year. Also yesterday, the Wisconsin State Senate gavelled in and out of the special legislative session called by Governor Tony Evers last month that would have allowed debate among Wisconsin lawmakers on how to use the state's unprecedented $3.8 billion in tax surplus to assist Wisconsinites amid rising prices and the COVID-19 pandemic. Margaret Farrow, the first female lieutenant governor in Wisconsin history, passed away yesterday at the age of 87. On Tuesday, Wisconsin Badgers sophomore Johnny Davis was announced as the Big Ten Player of the Year, and UW's head coach Greg Gard received Coach of the Year after the Badgers finished the regular season with a share of the Big Ten title, despite ranking 10th in a preseason poll. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. We got Hump Day Harvey Kaye, Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and most importantly, friend of ours. Harvey, thanks for coming around, man.
Thank you. I was so glad when you called.
Harvey, we got to talk a little football before we get to the politic. And
definitely
Aaron Rodgers, the beloved and hated quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. 4 years, $200 million. I said it a couple times yesterday. That's a lot of cheese, Harvey. What do you think, man? I think you were sometimes critical of the Packers quarterback and league MVP.
My feelings towards Rodgers are truly love-hate. Okay. I mean, I think given the things that he put, it's not just the team and would he play or not. It's a whole community up here in Northeast Wisconsin, probably a whole community as far as South Milwaukee and out to Madison and North. I mean, when he messed around with whether or not he was coming back, he was insulting us. And I was outraged. And then, things could calm down because he joined us and we were going to, we were doing great, except for that first game in the South. We got to avoid games where there's heat and humidity. That's for sure. And we're having a great season. And then it turns out, that he has COVID, that he had lied basically about having been vaccinated or at least immunized. And it was like, I kept thinking to myself, what is with this guy? I mean, doesn't he understand that there are a lot of people who depend on him economically and emotionally, in fact, when you think about how people feel the day after a Packers loss versus a victory or vice versa. So, I in the middle of this season, I thought, don't even come back. Give us a break already. And the unfortunate thing was that Jordan Love didn't quite live up to my hopes and expectations when he went in against the Kansas City Chiefs. Though admittedly, he didn't have much time to get ready for that opportunity. Well, the end of the season came, and I was convinced when people asked me, so what's going to happen with Rodgers for next year? I said, he'll be back. Okay. He'll ask for more money. He'll be back. The question is, can we hold together Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, and whoever else he wants to hold on to? Then all of a sudden, you got to admit, this has been a roller coaster since the end of the season. And then what was it? The other day, they said he was negotiating with both the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos. And I thought, what is this all about? And that my anger, my hatred for what he was doing to this team, I was reminded of it and it came back. My daughter and her fiance, who are really major Packer fans, they live out in New York. They were going through this roller coaster thing, but my daughter kept saying, you got to bring him back. We have to bring him back because he's a guarantee to make it to the playoffs, even if he's guaranteed to lose the playoffs. Sorry. My wife told me not to say guaranteed before I came on. Okay.
Dr. Harvey Kaye, my fine guest. Harvey, this is some of a NFC North kind of show. We're playing out live in Minneapolis. Our friends at WCPT,
right?
They're listening. They don't see Aaron Rodgers through these same rose-colored green and gold glasses you see him through. He is the most despised player in the NFL right now, and I think this is sort of a weird example because I, as a Packer fan, I thought he was asinine. I thought he did many things wrong, but I was cheering for him. And I have forgiven him already his indiscretions. He's back in the fold, right? He's the prodigal QP returned. So here's my question. Do you see parallels between our tribal adoration for Aaron Rodgers, despite his faults and shortcomings as a person, less so as a quarterback, and the fact everybody else hates him? Do you see any parallels with, let's say, Donald Trump and the tribalism existing in our
Well, let's face it. If you're a Packers fan, look, this is what I tell people. And if there are any conservatives listening, pay close attention. If you are a progressive for a start, you have to be a Packers fan. This is the community, fan-owned, regional-owned team in the NFL. The rest of the NFL fears the possibility that Americans might wake up one day and say, the Packers, whatever we think about them when we have to play them, they're a model for America. Remember years ago, what was it? Dallas was the America's team. Yeah. What a joke. What a joke that was. Absolute joke. So Packers came back, at least those of us who wrote about them, and said, well, we're the people's team. But I think it is the case that the people's team is a model for America. And honestly, if you want to believe in this nation, you got to be a Packers fan. That's all.
Well, here's my final thought on the Packers, and then
can I sidebar? I have a question for you.
You sidebar.
Since you're the man in the media, is he back with Shailene or is he not back with Shailene?
I know that's all the rumor. I was reading about that before we came on the air. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers is back with the ex-fiance / girlfriend, and they flew out together to some event in Florida on a private jet. Hopefully not the same jet that Trump was on. But here's the last thing I'm going to say about the Packers.
Was that event Bakhtiari's wedding or something? No, what was the story there?
Yeah, she also accompanied him to the Bakhtiari wedding.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
You've been reading the page 6, haven't you, Harvey? At least.
Yes. Can I ask the second question?
Sure.
Before we go on? My second question is, as my daughter, my wife said to me, the question is, now that we've got Aaron back and Devontae's been tagged, who else is going to be in the receiver corps? There's no guarantee of any of them. Will Rodgers make sure that Cobb returns? Is that going to be part of the deal?
I don't know that they possibly can afford another high-end free agent. You're probably going to have to gear up with some younger players or sign some of your, see some of your young guys come through.
Do you think Cobb is actually going to be a high-end free agent?
Well, he didn't have the productive year this year, but he'd still, just his tag mark. The Packers are still $25 million over their cap number. So they
well, I'm depending on you to write the check to cover them. How's that?
Well, as long as you don't mind a post-dated third-party check, Harvey Kaye, yours is coming in the same fashion. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I still blame the Packers and Aaron Rodgers for the 2010, the lifting of Scott Walker and a red ticket to victory. The state of Wisconsin, if the Packers are having a good year, then the incumbent, whoever it is, the incumbent party is probably going to win re-election. This might actually fare well for Governor Tony Evers, although God only knows what it means for Ron Johnson's future. But Harvey,
you know what? What you just said, I'm willing to forgive Rodgers everything now.
If
we can make sure that we hold on to our Democratic governor, and even possibly, given the Wisconsin Supreme Court decision recently, pick up some more Senate and Assembly seats. How's that?
Well, as long as you're willing to blame him for the last rent wave election back in 2010. Harvey, let's talk about President Joe Biden. And I know the State of the Union address, and we talked off air, but let's talk on air about it. You weren't necessarily impressed with the tone of the speech. You called it, you analogized it, at least to me. I don't mean to steal your thunder, but
that's okay. Go ahead.
A Mardi Gras float. Tell me what you meant by that.
Yeah, well, I will get to that as my punchline to what I'm about to say. Okay. Here's the thing. I was listening to the speech. I was glued to the TV set. In fact,
I was watching the Badger game, so you did better than I watched the speech.
Well, I don't mean to make any enemies in the Madison area, but I am not a UW-Madison sports fan at all. My sports teams come out of a place called Louisiana, LSU. Okay, I pay attention to LSU football, and by the way, I was kind of entertained by the fact that Rutgers what?
I said you and James Carville, right?
No, well, that's about the only thing he and I might agree on. Okay. No, but and the other thing is that I was kind of entertained since I was an undergraduate at Rutgers, that Rutgers all of a sudden was hitting the media Big Ten basketball wise. So, okay. Well, but you asked me. So I was glued to the TV set. And I think it's a shame that more Democrats, people who are progressives, weren't watching Biden, because I didn't want people to think I'm misrepresenting his speech. So I'm listening, and I was moved by his ability to hit all the right notes in the speech, except for one. He didn't talk at all about the student debt question. That to me was unfortunate, but he was hitting all the right notes. But after a while, I came to realize that hitting the right notes may have been basically, as you were leading me to repeat what I told you, it was like a Mardi Gras float. Now, people know that down at Mardi Gras, these parades that go on for about a week or more leading up to the big New Orleans one itself, they throw out the coins, doubloons, and they throw out the beads, and they're colorful and they're wonderful, and everybody reaches for them, and you try to bring home as many as you can. Well, the fact is that the beads are basically cheap stuff. And in fact, my sense was that he was offering a line to workers, a line to women, a line especially to people of color, African Americans, on voting rights, but that he wasn't telling us how we're supposed to go about making sure that something goes on in Congress to enable him to get bills on his desk to sign them into law. And I kept thinking about that and quickly realized that there were really important things he failed to do in the speech. So, for example, when he introduced the CEO, I assume he's a billionaire, of the Intel Corporation, and talked about the fact that the Intel Corporation was going to invest $20 billion in the eastern section of Ohio, to start manufacturing various things that would be high-paid jobs. I thought, okay, I know that that's a classic thing that he had to do, because Trump tried to show the degree to which he was going to hold on to jobs when he was, when he went through his State of the Union message early on. But this is the thing. I was really disappointed and eventually became rather angry. The fact that Biden, was it Scranton Joe, the guy who was going to be the friend of labor, that he couldn't figure out, or nobody in his entourage could figure out, wouldn't it be a damn good idea and a damn good signal to the nation if he brought on a variety of Starbucks workers who were organizing in the Starbucks shops, or perhaps Kellogg's workers, where they were suffering, I don't want to, nearly slave-like, serf-like conditions in the workplace, and had to really fight for attention and to get a better contract. Or for that matter, bring in miners from Alabama. Or how about, the name Chris Smalls, the sort of lead organizer in the New York area of Amazon workers. Why couldn't he have one or more of them up in the gallery? That would have been a nice sign. Or how about when he talked about the threat to a woman's right to choose? Why couldn't he have, for example, talked about the fact that when Donald Trump won the presidency, the largest demonstrations imaginable, the Women's March, took to the streets in New York, St. Louis, everywhere one can imagine in the country, really making an historic statement about women's rights and the imperative to defend them. Why couldn't he have said, maybe women and those of us who are their allies should turn out once again to remind Congress that it is time to truly defend a woman's right to choose? Or better than that, maybe he should have leaned over at the lectern he was speaking from and looked down at Amy Coney Barrett and, what's his name, Kavanaugh, and said, the Supreme Court does not have the right to strip Americans of their rights. Those are the kind of things I would have loved to have seen. So, that's my take.
Harvey, a very smart woman who I married, pointed out to me in 2014, after Scott Walker won re-election here in the state of Wisconsin, woke up like 6 o'clock in the morning. I look at my wife. She's like, the Democrats didn't offer anything to the quote unquote white working class. And she's not that political a person. And the fact that she woke up in a cold sweat at 6 a.m. Harvey, you talk about the speech. Well, you talk about all the different things, but it sounds like he checked a lot of boxes. And my fear is that we as Democrats are often characterized as, only being there for those who we can check a box for. And something that Bernie Sanders did quite a bit differently. And nearly every conversation I heard with Bernie, maybe to his credit, maybe to his fault, he didn't talk about issues in terms of race or LGBTQ. Almost every conversation came through the prism of the haves and the have-nots. And Harvey, I know you've got some thoughts on this. Let's come back. My fine guest, Harvey Kaye. Harvey, we're going to start calling Aaron Rodgers an oligarch.
Great.
He's all on his way, right? 200 billion. That's a lot of cheese.
He's got numerous. I'll be back to talk more about that.
You better be back, Harvey Kaye. More Devil's Advocates.
Well, that'll be the day. That'll be the day.
It's a process. It's a process. We'll get it done.
That's a great idea. Okay, how do we do that?
I did what I came to do.
What the hell does that mean?
Thank you. Go get him.
Can we talk?
That's buzzed. Oh, yeah? Yeah,
Can I
he's
talk?
starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Public girl.
Catching up after work.
Guys, this round's on me. You said that? You really said that?
You should have just seen it. You should have been.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Feel like your emotions are all over the place? A healthy routine that includes enough sleep, exercise, and proper nutrition can help you feel more centered.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and buy our Wove gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
Oh, she may be weary.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back to my fine guest, Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. Harvey, we're playing songs in honor of the plane that nearly dumped the former president into the Gulf of Mexico this weekend. Apparently had some plane troubles. Now he's asking his followers to fund Trump Force One. So, in a few of the greats who have died in prior plane crashes, but for the grace of God went Trump. Harvey, economic issues. And so often, and I was at the Women's March in DC. I was at Trump's inauguration the next day. We were in that crowd, and it was an amazing sight to see. And it was funny to me how many Republicans, and I was wearing a Badger hat, as I often do, Homer, as you well know, but I'm sitting at a bar in DC. We tried to broadcast. I mean, they used up all the cell power. There was no way we were pumping a broadcast out of the Women's March. So we said, screw it. We went to the bar. And there were a lot of Republicans, specifically the former Republican Party chair of the state of Wisconsin, sat down next to me talking Badgers. And then we see Sheriff David A. Clark Jr., the former Milwaukee County Sheriff, Fox News favorite. Well, he's in there and he's quite agitated. And what was bothering these Republicans, there were others, the women really intimidated them. And the pink hats, and I don't know what it is about pink, but they were all very agitated. They thought they owned DC that day. And suddenly these women came and they took it back. And those Republicans, especially those from Wisconsin, didn't like it much. So anyways, under that context, here's my thought. Economic issues. Bernie Sanders often frames everything through the prism of economics. And I certainly know if you asked the average Republican that tunes into this show occasionally, where do you stand on abortion? I'm against abortion. But if I had a different conversation with them, Harvey, if I talked to him and said, God forbid, but what if your daughter was raped and your daughter was impregnated? What would you do? Well, God, I'd do whatever I had to do. I'd stand with her. As we all would as parents, let's hope. So when you talk about their lives and their children, many of them think like we do, Harvey. And when we talk about issues as kitchen table issues, as economic issues, you know what? I got a lot of commonality with my friends across the aisle. It's only when we start casting the R's and the D's out there that, we kind of run to our respective teams. So I know you have been instrumental in putting together an economic bill of rights. And I know we touched on this the last time you came through, Harvey, but you're very proud of it. And we want to tell people about it. First and foremost, you're garnering a lot of support for this. So let's talk about that. Who likes this plan other than just you and I?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I wasn't expecting us to be able to get to that today, but I am glad you asked. Let's start. I want to remind everyone that an economic bill of rights is a long-standing American idea. And it's an idea that has been proposed and advanced, renewed, redeemed, and advanced again by people who would not seem to line up necessarily always in the same place. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt first proposed an economic bill of rights in 1944. And as somebody said to me, well, wasn't he just an old white guy? That right? But how many people realize the next major proponent of specifically an economic bill of rights was A. Philip Randolph, the great Black labor and civil rights leader, basically the man who created the March on Washington movement beginning in 1941, renewed it in 1963, the march at which Martin Luther King spoke those famous words about his dream. But on top of that, very few people remember that in 1960, the Democratic Party platform on which John Kennedy ran called for a renewed commitment by the Democrats and the nation to the rights of man of Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson, and to the Economic Bill of Rights of FDR. They outlined a platform in terms of the Economic Bill of Rights. And then I would add, in 1968, not long before his assassination, Martin Luther King Jr., in the pages, I believe, of Look magazine, laid out a call for an Economic Bill of Rights. So this is something that has transcended the left, as we often think of it. It's been liberals, folks on the left, labor folk, civil rights activists, and Bernie Sanders. He didn't speak of it the way he should have during the campaign of 2019-20, but it was definitely on his website, and he advanced it as on the road occasionally, though unfortunately not on TV. So I've been really thinking about this a lot, and I've been talking to people, and it's amazing. Not only do I have a New Hampshire state representative who's going to be talking to me about how do we promote this nationally as an idea. My partner in crime, so to speak, my co-author on this, Alan Minsky, is the executive director of Progressive Democrats of America, a major progressive organization. Obviously, I can tell you more members in California than any other state, but they are a force nationwide. And also here in the state of Wisconsin, I want everyone to know that a year ago, Representative Francesca Hong and Representative Christina Shelton, who happens to be my state assembly person up here from the Green Bay area, they proposed a Wisconsin Economic Justice Bill of Rights. And the word has it that the Democratic caucus in the Assembly and the Senate are very keen on this idea. And on March 21st, less than 2 weeks away, in Madison at the state capitol, there will be a relaunch of the call for the Wisconsin Economic Justice Bill of Rights. So there is this, it's getting a certain traction. And what would that mean? Well, it would mean that when FDR asked Americans in 1944, what do you want after the war? And he discovered what they wanted was guaranteed health care, guaranteed housing, and a guaranteed job with a living wage, things like that. And he was prepared to advance it. That was 85% of Americans who wanted that. That was Republicans and Democrats alike. And you ask Americans today what's important to them, and they will tell you health care, a job with a living wage. I mean, we're in the same moment in many ways. What do Americans want? We need to assure them that this nation is committed to economic justice and economic Bill of Rights.
Well, the nation's not equally committed to economic justice or ethnic justice or any other damn thing. Of course, one party is. Is it important? And we're almost out of time here, but do you think it's important, Harvey, that the Democrats basically show the American people we stand for something?
Yes.
We stand for them.
Absolutely. Look, we're going into a 2022 midterm election, right? In November. Americans know that much may not be legislated, but let the Democrats at least assure Americans that they're committed to these kinds of things and call on Americans in every which way to make their voices heard, that even if we don't get it this year, we'll get it before 2024.
Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, fellow Packer fan and friend of mine, man. Thanks for coming around on this fine hump day afternoon, Harvey.
A pleasure. I look forward to our next conversation.
Well, I hope to see you right here in this fine studio on March 21st, Devil Radio World Headquarters. We'll make time for you, Harvey. Thanks for coming around, man.
Thank you.
We're back. More Devil's Advocates opening up the phones to you at 844-967-2789.
Probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the American worker.
I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Do you need to hire? Let Devil Radio help your business find the right candidate with our Help Wanted Half Minutes. Devil Radio will create a 30-second job listing for your business. Play it on Devil Radio for the month. We'll feature your job listing during Afternoon Drive on Fridays, and we'll even publish your Help Wanted listing on Devil Radio 927.com's website, all for just $300 per month. If you're hiring, Devil Radio can help. Call today.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue in Mariupol in southern Ukraine. Officials say 17 people were injured in a Russian airstrike on a maternity hospital. The ground shook more than a mile away when the complex was hit. President Volodymyr Zelensky called the strike an atrocity. In Washington, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats are dropping work on a big new coronavirus relief bill to push for aid to Ukraine and the fight against Vladimir Putin.
We are at a very difficult time because democracy is under assault by a person who has no values. We have to use everything at our disposal, whether it's economic sanctions to cripple their economy.
The Pentagon is rejecting any plans to provide MiG fighters to Ukraine, even through a second country, possibly Poland. Spokesman John Kirby says it's best not to do it.
The intelligence community has assessed that the transfer of MiG-29s to Ukraine may be mistaken as escalatory and could result in a significant Russian reaction that might increase the prospects of a military escalation with NATO. Therefore, We also assessed the transfer of the MiG-29s to Ukraine to be high risk.
Stocks had their biggest jump since June of 2020. A sharp drop in oil prices eased fears about inflation. The Dow finished up 653 points. Lawyers for 4 men charged with planning to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, told jurors they were swayed by informants and federal agents who targeted them for their anti-government views, describing them as big talkers, wannabes, and in one case, a misfit. They are accused of the plot over their opposition of the governor's coronavirus restrictions. A plane carrying former President Donald Trump was forced to make an emergency landing in New Orleans last weekend after suffering engine failure over the Gulf of Mexico. The details of the landing, first reported by Politico, were confirmed by a person familiar with the incident. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a SelectQuote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Make sure you listen to Devil Radio 92.7. If you do, you go to heaven.
At Chad's Design Build, we care deeply about the quality of the services that we provide to our clients. An excellent remodeling experience requires communication, honesty, accuracy, and a detailed plan, all of which helps to create a satisfied client. And these commitments spell our name. To learn more about the Chad's remodeling experience, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. Building a better world, one remodeled home at a time, and celebrating 30 years of excellence.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on 92.7, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, a Dane County judge ruled against Assembly Speaker Robin Voss and Special Counsel Michael Gableman in an open records lawsuit brought by American Oversight. Judge Frank Remington dismissed an effort by Gableman's attorney to stay the decision pending an appeal and released nearly 800 pages of documents from the Gableman review. Missing from the documents released yesterday was information relevant to the second interim report Gableman published last week. During what was expected to be the final legislative session of the year in the state Senate, the Republican-led body rejected a bipartisan proposal that would audit the current Assembly-authorized probe into the 2020 election being led by Michael Gableman. A mix of clouds and sunshine throughout the day today with winds from 10 to 15 miles an hour and a high of 32 degrees. It's partly cloudy skies in the forecast this evening with an overnight low of 13 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Want to thank my most recent guest, a fine one, Dr. Harvey Kaye, Professor Emeritus, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, Packer fan like me, something of a homer. So anyways, if you miss any of the live action, first and foremost, set an alarm, get up a little earlier, do what you got to do. But above and beyond that, you will be forgiven as long as you go and download the podcast at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. Let me simplify, DARNWI.com. Find the podcast there. That's where we post them, or at least Evan and Fancy. They do all the hard work. I take most of the credit. I like how that works out. Fancy,
well, responsibility too. The responsibility is also there too. So.
Well, Fancy Brian, got some legal updates. And, got my little buddy coming next hour. You could be a part of this big hour, 844-967-2789, barely screened. Got a legal update. I'm going to start here. You remember Sidney Powell? Got actually a couple of legal updates in regards to Sidney
Are you
Powell.
referring to the Kraken?
She is the yes, the Kraken. It sounds a lot like crack smoker, but Kraken. She had the Kraken. Yeah, release the Kraken. Well, she apparently is up on a state par action in the state of Texas. Let me share some of this with you.
Oh, good.
And then, a broader update on the defamation lawsuit. She's got some good legal news and some bad legal news. Let me start with the bad legal news for the Kraken attorney, Sidney Powell. The State Bar of Texas is exploring disciplinary action against one of the most prominent attorneys pushing Donald Trump's big live election fraud after receiving multiple complaints. I wonder how many multiple is. Here is a quote. Beginning in or about November of 2020, respondent filed multiple federal lawsuits in different jurisdictions, including the District Court of Arizona, the Northern District of Georgia, the Eastern District of Michigan, and the Eastern District of Wisconsin. Oh yeah, our backyard as well. Alleging election fraud has occurred in the national presidential election in 2020. The lawsuit noted respondent had no reasonable basis to believe the lawsuits she filed were not frivolous. Sort of without merit, as they say in the legal game. Here it continues. Powell is licensed to practice law in Texas. She led the so-called Kraken legal team that filed a lawsuit in Michigan, asking a court to order state officials award the state's electoral college votes to former President Donald Trump, despite the loss to Joe Biden by more than 154,000 votes. The Detroit Free Press reported Wednesday. The state bar of Texas zeroed in on this lawsuit in arguing that she violated the state's rules governing lawyers' professional conduct. Thank God there's no broadcast code of conduct, or at least none that I've read, including those prohibiting lawyers from knowingly make false statements of fact or using false evidence. Now, Fancy Brian, I would say, for the record, round here, I always think I'm telling the truth. And when I discover, rarely that I've said something erroneously, I try to correct the record. But
it seems like you care about your reputation.
Well, I do. It's about the only damn thing I got. Above and beyond that, I would point out, if this was the standard of broadcast communications, mass comm, I got a mass comm degree from, an esteemed middle-ish tier college. But if this was the standard, I would have no right-wing talk radio competition.
Oh my goodness.
They could not defend themselves in the same way they have in the past. Right here in the great state of Wisconsin, there were sample doctrine filings against the heavyweights, the righty-whities in the great state of Wisconsin, WISN and WTMJ. And one claimed First Amendment. You know, we can say whatever the hell we want. And the other one in their legal defense claimed, you can't trust us anyways.
Yeah, the Alex Jones defense. You'd have to be an idiot to believe what I say. I'm just performing.
Yes, that is a legal defense also been used by Tucker Carlson. No reasonable person could trust what Tucker Carlson says on his show to be fact. But we got a little update on that topic as well.
Could you imagine, like, I mean, I already go on tangents about things that are true. Could you imagine if you just let me make up stuff? Are you kidding me? We would have we would be the most entertaining thing on earth.
You would have a lot of material to work with. But at some point, you or I would get sued for slander or libel or something of the sort.
But that's the best thing about lying is that you can make it up. You don't have to have any substance. You can just make it up, right? It's cool.
Well, not without consequence, and we'll get to that. But here, again, is the Detroit Free Press reporting the legal lot of Sidney Powell and the Texas State Bar matter. In a statement, Powell told the Free Press she was not surprised by the Texas agency's decision to pursue punishment. Here is her quote, Fancy. I look forward to presenting our evidence in court. It will likely be the first time any judge in the country has heard testimony from one of our witnesses. It will be eye-opening to the public, Powell said. Powell has repeatedly promised to deliver evidence of sweeping fraud and has consistently failed to do so, the newspaper noted. Powell has become so toxic, she reportedly is not even welcome at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. In January, Powell and Rudy Giuliani were subpoenaed by the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. I don't think she's yet answered that subpoena.
I just need to point out that she may not be allowed at Mar-a-Lago, but it ain't because of lying. It was because she failed.
Well, yes, maybe. I heard that Rudy got banned from Fox News, but here's an interesting thing. You know, the defamation lawsuit, and there are a couple. The voting machine companies, Smartmatic, I think the one's called, the other Dominion Software. Well, they are suing various people, various hosts, and in fact, they're suing Fox News Network for defamation, for saying effectively the machines were turned in and weaponized and turned the votes, even though they offered no evidence thereof.
Lucky for Fox News, Trump did nothing on those libel laws he threatened to loosen.
Well, the interesting part is a judge today used Tucker Carlson's own words against the Foxy News. It's got great irony. Aaron Blake reporting at the Washington Post. It's a pretty remarkable state of affairs when a judge is approvingly citing Tucker Carlson's journalistic rigor, but that's precisely the situation we find ourselves in now. And rather ironically, that could be bad news for Fox News. And it involves the crackhead lady, Sidney Powell. I'm going to bring it all back around. New York Supreme Court Judge David Cohen has now ruled that voting machine company Smartmatic's $2.7 billion with the B defamation lawsuit against Fox News and Rudy Giuliani can proceed. Rudy's going to have to owe it to you. The case involved numerous false and baseless claims made on Fox about voter fraud involving the company's voting machines. In the ruling, the judge notably dropped Fox host Judge Jeanine Pirro and former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell from the lawsuit. That's the good news for Sidney Powell, for the Kraken lady. Pirro, because her statements didn't so directly accuse Smartmatic of illegality, and Powell, well, because New York doesn't have jurisdiction over her.
How could you possibly misjudge this?
But the case against Fox, its other host, Giuliani, can proceed. In allowing it to, the judge previewed a tough road ahead for them in this monumental defamation case. The ruling repeatedly says Fox hosts Giuliani and Paul made claims without any evidence and without any basis. It also says that claims made by Giuliani, Fox host Maria Bartiromo, and now former Fox Business host Lou Dobbs could meet the legal standard of claims being so inherently improbable that only a reckless person would have put them in circulation. Fox News accused of being reckless. Reckless. I mean, you can say a lot of things about me, but I'm hardly reckless.
The irony is a little rich here these days.
A little bit more from the Judge Cohen. Even assuming that Fox News did not intentionally allow this false narrative to be broadcasted, there is a substantial basis for plaintiffs' claim that at minimum, Fox News turned a blind eye to a litany of outrageous claims about plaintiffs, unprecedented in the history of American elections, so inherently improbable that it evinced a reckless disregard for the truth. That's the judge saying that about the Foxy News. And while we are gratified that Judge Cohen, this is a statement from the Fox News media people, the spokesperson thereof, while we're gratified that Judge Cohen dismissed Smartmatic's claims against Jeannie Pirro at this early stage, we still plan to appeal the ruling immediately. Well, Pirro's off, but your client, they're still on the hook. Fox News, it called the lawsuit baseless and a full-blown assault on the First Amendment, which stands in stark contrast to the highest tradition of American journalism. Now, back to the author's point, but perhaps the ruling's most biting and also potentially legally important section involves Carlson Tucker, that is. In course of laying out the legal requirements for Smartmatic to prove its case, the judge noted that the company must prove Fox met the standard of acting with actual malice, not merely promoting false claims, but doing so with malice. And on that count, the judge says the best evidence that it did came from Tucker Carlson. That's because Carlson, unlike the others, applied significant actual skepticism to the claims and broadcasted. He pushed back on Sidney Powell. And they used it against Fox News. And now Fox News is on the hook, potentially for up to $2.6 billion.
Oh, that's a shame.
The one day that Tucker Carlson shows a thread of just a scintilla of journalistic integrity, they go and hold it against them. You'll never see that sort of activity out of Tucker again. Come back, more Devils. I'll tell you the rest of the big story.
I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Release the Kraken.
I know what I saw.
Hi, it's Rudy Giuliani, and I'm on Cameo.
COVID-19 vaccines are starting to become available across the country. Now is the time to get informed. Get the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. A message brought to you by the Ad Council and the CDC.
Date night at the movies.
I got popcorn. Shh. Sorry.
Get some candy. Getting back to the moments we miss.
Josh.
Starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidacy. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. Reading from a fine article at the Washington Post, Aaron Blake, the fine journalist, a judge uses Tucker Carlson's own words against Fox News, but not like you might expect. And it involves Sidney Powell, the Kraken lady. Now, she is under apparently a little scrutiny by the Texas bar, filing too many frivolous lawsuits in too many federal courts, but she's got a witness. Can I get a witness, Fancy Brian? She's claimed she's got a witness coming. It's going to be eye-popping. But anyways, in a separate but perhaps related case, because it's all about the big lie and the representations made especially on the Fox News. But surprisingly, Tucker Carlson, in this unique circumstance, didn't quite believe Sidney Powell. It's like he fell back upon his journalistic training just for a moment, and it was to the detriment, ironically, of Fox News in this $2.7 billion defamation suit. Here's why. Again, the Aaron Blake piece over at the Post, I quote my sources. That's because Carlson, unlike the other Fox News hosts, applied significant actual skepticism to the claims being made by Sidney Powell, and even broadcasted. In an episode many might have forgotten in the long and sordid run-up to the January 6th insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. But there was a time in which none other than Carlson stepped forward to question the stolen election narrative that had taken hold in the Trump movement and in certain corners of his network. Tucker said on November 19th that Powell's claims were serious, but he also rightfully noted that she had yet to substantiate them. No receipts, no evidence. He said he had asked over the course of a week for the evidence and offered her his platform, but that she had declined. No evidence to offer, apparently, at that time, holding out for the Texas State Bar hearing. Carlson said Powell never demonstrated that a single actual vote was moved illegitimately by software from one candidate to another. Not one. Said that on his November 19th broadcast. See how that could come back to haunt Fox News now.
And it's funny. I think the only reason he didn't like her is because she didn't come on.
Well, what he said as he explained this story in Tucker's words, it's his world, it's his words. Tucker said that when he invited her, the Kraken lady, on his show, she became angry and told us to stop contacting her because they kept seeking the evidence. They wouldn't give her the platform without the evidence, which is certainly a rarity on Fox News. And he never came up with the evidence. She never produced any evidence. In fact, eventually she said, "Stop bothering me. Stop calling me." Now, the episode alienated some Trump allies, but it also, in Cohen's estimation, again, back to the judge in the defamation suit, speaks to the possibility that Fox might meet the actual malice standard. Here's the section. Ironically, the statements of Tucker Carlson, perhaps the most popular Fox News host, mitigate most strongly in favor of possible findings that there is a substantial basis that Fox News acted with actual malice. To hear that, I'm reading from the judge's ruling. Actual malice is the standard to win a defamation case. And he said, look at what Tucker did. Here might be your evidence of actual malice. As noted above, on November 19, 2020, Lou Dobbs posted a video of he and Sidney Powell on Twitter with the caption stating that Powell has no doubt that Dominion voting machines run Smartmatic software, which allows it to manipulate the votes. The same day, Carlson wrote an article stating that for over a week, Powell had been claiming that the election had been stolen and that if Powell was correct, it would be the greatest crime in American history. And he thus asked her to substantiate her comments. However, Powell never provided the evidence requested by Carlson, and President Trump's campaign advised Carlson that it knew of no such evidence. Therefore, there are sufficient allegations that Fox News knew or should have known that Powell's claim was false. and purposefully ignored the efforts of its most prominent anchor to obtain substantiation of claims of wrongdoing by Smartmatic, who happen to be the plaintiffs in this $2.6 billion defamation suit. That's why I quote my sources, Fancy Brian.
That's crazy. You attribute things?
A little bit more. According to Aaron Blake, quoting the judge, this is not the only evidence the judge mentions as pointing to the possibility that Fox acted with actual malice. Again, that's the standard to lose if you're Foxy News. At another point, he noted that Fox didn't share emails from Smartmatic seeking to correct claims that its machines were used in Los Angeles County with other hosts. The judge even speculates it is possible that it deliberately decided to prevent them from learning facts which could or would have confirmed the probable falsity of the statements broadcast on their shows. So the plaintiffs, the manufacturers, sending emails in real time to Fox News saying they didn't use our voting machines combined with that software in Los Angeles County. But in Carlson's words, that the judge says, militate most strongly in favor of possible actual malice findings. When the judge says this is ironic, it seems he's referring to the fact that Carlson is the network's most popular host, but it's also ironic that Carlson has hardly been a beacon of journalistic tenacity. Either way, the fact that he seemed to see through the frivolity of Paul's baseless voter machine conspiracy theories and broadcast that posture, even as others promoted such claims far less skeptically, it is now more than just a Fox versus Fox and Trump ally story. It appears to be a potential legal liability.
Hooray! Dueling ironies.
Oh, that's going to sting. That's got to sting. You know, Fancy, I got some more ironic legal updates. You know, Madison Cawthorn, he's got some legal troubles. More legal troubles. You know, he's had ongoing legal troubles. And then there's Gableman and his subpoenas. Do you know he didn't actually serve many of the subpoenas, including to the voting machine companies? Come back, more devils.
I feel sorry for unattractive women. I mean, there's nothing they did, you know?
That's disgusting. Put it away, please. We don't do that here.
Taking on Radio Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from McFarland to Wanakee, Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Here on Devil Radio, the happy hour is always the happiest hour of the day. If you want to end your day on a high note, join the happy hour at the all-new Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Ave, right next to Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Happy hours now, Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. with drink and wine specials and $1 slices, and always free parking in our building. The Dark Horse Art Bar. Enjoy this unique, funky, cool space. Surround yourself with art with featured local, regional, and national artists. New shows each month.
We all know Wisconsin's favorite cocktail. That's right, the Bloody Mary. And Wisconsin bar and restaurants are the best at it. And now it's time for a standoff. Who makes the best Bloody Mary? Find out who wins at Downdren's first annual Bloody Mary Fest on March 26th from 11 to 2 p.m. Taste Bloody Marys from up to 25 local bars and restaurants. And do it with your own custom tasting glass. It's Downdren's first annual Bloody Mary Fest. Enjoy music and purchase from local food trucks. March 26th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. To purchase tickets and to find out more, go to downdrensdistilling.com. You must be 20.
Hospital bombed. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. A Russian airstrike devastated a maternity hospital in the port city of Mariupol, Ukraine, amid growing warnings from the West that Moscow's invasion is about to take a more brutal and indiscriminate turn. Ukrainian officials say at least 17 people were wounded in the attack. During a joint news conference with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says the U.S., Europe, and the G7 have to stop Vladimir Putin with ruinous sanctions.
We must double down on our sanctions. That includes a full SWIFT ban and the G7 ending its use of Russian oil and gas.
Stocks have their biggest jump since June 2020, spurred by a sharp drop in oil prices. U.S. crude dropped by 12%. The rally broke a four-day losing streak, but not enough to erase losses for the week. The Dow gained 694 points. The S&P added 2.6%, gaining 108. I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. The full-time Wisconsin State Senate wrapped up legislative work for the year yesterday evening in a floor session that was full of education proposals that are unlikely to receive support from Governor Tony Evers, who previously served as the state's superintendent of public instruction. Included in the bills passed by the state Senate were proposals to expand voucher schools in Wisconsin and break up the largest school district in the state, Milwaukee Public Schools. Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway and Dane County Executive Joe Parisi announced yesterday they plan to propose a site near the intersection of Highway 51 and 151 for a new permanent men's homeless shelter after a 2-year search. The defending champion Milwaukee Bucks beat the Oklahoma City Thunder last night in a blowout 142-115 to extend their winning streak to 5 games. The Bucks host the Atlanta Hawks this evening for a 7 p.m. tip-off. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil's advocates know how to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, today featuring great musical artists that died in plane crashes. In honor of the former president of the United States, apparently he was flying out of New Orleans this weekend, got on a plane with a bad motor, and apparently blew a motor and had to fly back to New Orleans, which the former president promptly followed up with a fundraising missive to the MAGA world supporters, saying they need to buy him a new Trump Force One. Because the last Trump Force One apparently had its own engine failure in Nashville last year. Is it that the man can't afford a good plane? Is he going to run for president again just for the Air Force One?
Look, it's good to know that he's had a near-death experience and has learned nothing from it. So at least we know that that's the kind of guy he is, and he's the guy we thought we were.
Well, it's an opportunity to grift.
What isn't an opportunity to grift, my
well,
friend?
Exactly. It's a life lesson he learned young and repeats often.
If you send me money, I'll send you a new microphone right now. Brand new. It's so good.
You got to turn my microphone off just to prove I need a new microphone?
Exactly.
We talked about this defamation lawsuit against Foxy News. And Fox News, a couple of the hosts thereof, Maria Bartiromo, well, she's still getting sued. And Lou Dobbs, I guess he's former Foxy News, he's still getting sued. But Janine Pirro was let off the hook. Apparently, she didn't say enough specific stuff to get, thrown in with the rest. And apparently, Sidney Powell, the Kraken attorney, under a little Texas bar action for some lawsuits lacking in merit, let's just say. They took some issue with, the 4 more federal lawsuits that were promptly booted. I mean, some were cut and paste jobs. Some reflected the wrong state in the lawsuits. But, she promises she's got a super surprise witness, so I can't wait for that. But back to the case of the defamation suits. Well, it's Smartmatic and Dominion. And there are 2 different defamation suits, but the Smartmatic suit today, the $2.6 billion suit, was allowed to move forward by a judge that said, in fact, some of the Fox News hosts might have utilized actual malice, the standard. And how do we know that? Because even Tucker Carlson was skeptical. Even Tucker Carlson wanted to see some receipts from the Kraken lady and spent like a week seeking the receipts, and she never produced them. And he called her out and said, you know what? She offers no evidence, and she stopped taking our phone calls. But
again,
that didn't. Go ahead.
I bet you he had planned on having her on that week and having a whole big thing where he's going to cry election fraud, and she didn't want to come on the show. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to burn her down.
Well, he claimed it would have been the biggest story in American history. And the fact that he was not able to break it. I mean, I might have been a little bit petty about that. But the fact that she had no evidence to offer of this criminality, even Tucker couldn't throw caution to the wind. He left that for Bartiromo and Dobbs and others. So the lawsuit, it continues. It moves on down the line, and Fox News, of course, will appeal, but they're just appealing the early stages. The judge said today there might be, actual malice there.
Pettiness being the downfall is just too perfect. It's just great.
Well, Fancy Brian, we got our own little craziness right here in our backyard. It includes a special prosecutor, the corrupted former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman. Sometimes I got to remember all the monikers I tag people with, but that one sticks. That one, I think it's apt.
It rolls off the tongue.
But Gableman dropped, his interim report and his recommendation for those listing outside the state of Wisconsin. The special prosecutor here said, we should strongly consider rolling back the electoral college votes for Joe Biden. But I have no evidence to prove there's anything sorted that would actually do that. But I'm going to level a lot of, sort of scurrilous thoughts and allegations without any evidence. And it's interesting because there's actually a liberal group that's suing this special prosecutor and Robin Vos, who is the Assembly Speaker, Republican, that, put the taxpayers on the hook for this investigation on an election that was decided 2 years ago that we've already recounted, audited, and even the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty said, no voter irregularities of any significance. But that didn't stop Gableman. But now we are learning from this lawsuit and the 800 pages of documents Remington started releasing today. Apparently he's not waiting for a stay. He's not waiting for a higher court to rule that he shouldn't release the documents. Well, we got some breaking news. Gableman, the special prosecutor, had over 100 subpoenas. And a lot of them never got served. Didn't even bother.
How could he do that when he was having lunch all over the state?
Attorney Michael Gableman, I prefer the descriptor, corrupted former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman, never served some of these subpoenas he drafted as part of Assembly Republicans' review of the 2020 election, raising new questions about the extent of their probe. New questions like, did he investigate anything? Or is this purely an act of fiction? It is. The disclosure came just after a Dane County judge released nearly 800 pages of documents today. Oh, I guess that's yesterday, Tuesday, my bad, about taxpayer-funded election review that showed Gableman's team did little investigating for months. They really didn't do anything. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos of Rochester said last month that he had issued more than 100 subpoenas as part of the review. However, some of those subpoenas, including ones dealing with issues at the center of Gableman's review, were never served, according to Gableman's office. According to the investigator, he never bothered serving them.
But these are really important things that we need to get to the bottom of. It's really important.
Well, Democratic State Rep Mark Spreitzer, you remember Mark? He and Gableman had a little mano a mano.
Shame on you. What? Shame on you.
Yeah, that was Spreitzer, the second one. Shame on you. Gableman's office on Wednesday provided Democratic State Rep Mark Spreitzer of Beloit with copies of 86 subpoenas that Spreitzer requested as a member of the Assembly Elections Committee. The documents include the in-state subpoenas that were served, along with out-of-state subpoenas that were signed by Speaker Vos, but not served. So any of the out-of-state subpoenas were not served, according to Gableman's aide, wrote to Spreitzer in an email that misspelled Vos's name. You know what?
I mean, that's common amongst people, but maybe when he's your boss, maybe.
I tell you what, man, if you are writing email missives on my behalf, you better spell my name right. Gableman, a former state Supreme Court justice.
3 letters.
Vos. You think it was VOSS?
It's 3. That's the water. The VOS is just Robin Vos. But you should. It's 3 letters. Couldn't you remember that?
Well, maybe misspelled Robin. Who knows?
With a Y.
I'm not clear. Fancy style. Gableman, a former state Supreme Court justice, corrupted, is responsible for drafting and serving subpoenas. All subpoenas must be signed by Voss. I think it's VOS, and Assembly Chief Clerk Todd Blazel. Now, Gableman's aide did not explain why the subpoenas for out-of-state entities were not served without explanation. Yeah, we got no good reason.
And it's not like he didn't leave the state. He went to Arizona to go and do some research, didn't he?
Well, but, the questionable nature of the validity of the subpoenas and maybe even the contract that Gableman was not under, maybe that sort of undermined their faith in their own subpoena process. One reason, according to the author here, Patrick Marley, maybe because of legal doubts over whether Gableman has the authority to compel those from other states to show up for interviews and provide him with documents. Here are who the subpoenas were not served to. Among the subpoenas that were drafted but not served were ones to the Center for Tech and Civic Life. That's the Zuckerberg Group. The National Vote at Home Institute and consultant Michael Spritzer Rubenstein. Oh, he was villainized. According to copies of subpoenas released by Spritzer's office, Gableman has put two groups and Spritzer Rubenstein at the center of his criticism of how the 2020 election was conducted. And the Center for Tech and Civic Life provided more than $10 million in local governments, to local governments in Wisconsin, 10 mil to local governments, if I didn't say that clearly, to help run their elections during the coronavirus pandemic. Gableman and other Republicans, because of course this is partisan, have put their attention on the 8.8 million of that went to the state's 5 largest cities, as Gableman would describe them, the Zuckerberg 5. Because calling them the Wisconsin 5 would not be derisive enough, according to Gableman.
Because he didn't want to tarnish the word Wisconsin.
Well, that, and of course, the 5 largest cities are home to most of the Democratic voters in the state. Spritzer Rubenstein of the National Vote at Home Institute assisted municipal officials with their elections. Republicans have alleged he was granted too much authority, particularly in Green Bay. Others, subpoenas, that were not served, were directed at the election management firm Command Central, voting consultants, U.S. Digital Response and Elections Group, technology firm QuickBase, 2 employees of the Hyatt Regency, and the engineering director for Airbnb. Well, all very logical, of course.
Of course, it makes sense when you never think about it.
The 86 subpoenas fall short of the more than 100 that Voss claimed had been issued. In many cases, multiple subpoenas were issued to the same organization. Spritzer called Gableman's work a sham investigation. That's a direct quote. That is wasting taxpayer money. Speaker Voss should end this circus now, he said in a statement. The newly disclosed subpoenas were drafted in December, the same month that Gableman and Voss sent subpoenas to the voting machine companies. Here's where we tie it all back in with the Kraken lady. Dominion Voting Systems of Colorado and Election Systems and Software of Nebraska. Now, Dominion ignored Gableman's subpoenas, and ES&S sent Gableman a letter contending his subpoenas were invalid, in part because the company is not based in Wisconsin. In the letter, ES&S said Gableman had not properly served the subpoenas on the company. You've got to serve, like the board member or the CEO, at least a corporate officer, service. It's a legal process. You get these documents. They said, you've been served.
I thought it was just you say it and then it happens and then the cops show up and then the credits roll, right?
Fancy Brian, let's not wreck the ending. It's unclear if the subpoenas for the Center for Tech and Civic Life, the National Vote at Home Institute, and Spritzer Rubenstein were never sent at all, or if Gableman handled them the same ways as the ones to the voting machine companies where they were delivered, but not formally served. No, we stuck them in the mail. That counts, doesn't it? No, that does not count. Not for legal service.
We really
that is a general rule to my opinion and experience.
We really meant it in our heart.
Again, Gableman's aide did not address the issue in his email to Spritzer and did not immediately return a message from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel on Wednesday. Now, Voss hired Gableman last summer and gave him a big old budget, right, to look into the 2020 election. He took that step months after recounts and courts concluded Joe Biden had defeated Donald Trump in the state by 21,000 votes. Nobody tell Gableman. Gableman last week contended the election was so flawed that Republicans who control the legislature should consider revoking the state's electoral votes. No, he said that out loud, and he said it like he meant it. I don't believe it, but he does, apparently. Legal scholars say that is impossible. But Trump this week latched on to the idea in a statement that praised Gableman and Voss. Gableman made the recommendation about decertifying the election in a report that mostly reiterated complaints Republicans have raised about the way the election was run. Records from his office released yesterday under court order provided few sign Gableman's team has done work to turn up their own evidence of problems with the election. So they're just taking people's words for it. Madison-based attorney Lester Pine said Democratic Governor Tony Evers' administration should audit any future payments to Gableman from the state legislature. It appears to me that Michael Gableman is a grifter, and someone needs to be looking over his shoulder carefully to make sure he's not misspending the taxpayers' money.
What I can tell you is that I'm going to call him the Gableman 3 because he's got a head the size of 3.
Now, Pine's firm, Pine Spock, represents American Oversight, and it doesn't say so here, but I strongly suspect, unlike Gableman, they have a legal contract. Come back, and they probably serve their subpoenas, probably, put them in the mail, more devils. We're mailing it in.
Look at the size of that boy's head. I'm not kidding. It's like an orange on a toothpick.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Okay, men, time to be an all-star caregiver. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Be there emotionally and physically. Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I want to get back to being in my community group.
I want to continue having a soccer season. So I can throw parties again. So I can go to her parties.
It'd really be nice to dine in instead of getting delivery for a change.
So I can feel safe and protected for myself and my students. We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
COVID-19 vaccines are starting to become available across the country. Now is the time to get informed. Get the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. A message brought to you by the Ad Council and the CDC.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Meddling Devil's Advocates radio show. I suspect Donald Trump would not like the fact that we're playing Richie Valens in his honor because, he lost a motor on his airplane this weekend. Sort of a scary circumstance. I'm sure he crapped himself. Pretty damn sure.
Well, he already had the diapers on, so I'm pretty sure he was fine.
Well, here's the interesting part. When is Trump the last time something happened to Donald Trump that wasn't of a criminal nature, that Donald Trump didn't want to be the one to broadcast his version of the story first? This very victim feeling sort of guy, the whole rigged election was stolen from him. Why didn't he tell the American people about his mishap in the airs on Saturday. Today is Wednesday. We're finding out on Hump Day that Trump nearly crashed on Saturday. There is only one plausible reason why Trump didn't make the announcement himself. He crapped his pants. I'm just saying. We got an update, legal update. The coup memo guy, John Eastman. Remember, he's trying to shield all his emails, especially those around January 6th, claiming attorney-client privilege.
Oh.
Judge didn't see it that way. Here is the breaking news. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol scored a big win in its dispute with notorious coup memo attorney John Eastman. This one's going to hurt Trump a little bit. I bet he's going to have something to say about this right away. U.S. District Judge for the Central District of California, David O. Carter, on Wednesday said he would review Eastman's emails to determine the validity of the attorney-client privilege claims with his interactions with former President Trump. So basically, the judges said, I'm going to go over the emails. Now, what was not referenced was the alleged criminality. Let's not forget the J6 committee, the January 6th committee alleged that Donald Trump committed crimes and therefore his interactions could not be shielded by attorney-client privilege because of the fraud crime exemption. This is what the judge did say. O. Carter in this case. The circumstances of this case favor review of the emails, Carter wrote, in part due to the parties' cooperation to exclude extraneous emails. There are only 111 challenge documents between January 4th and 7th, 2021. As the court has previously noted, the evidence suggests that communications from those days are essential to the Select Committee's pressing investigation. Eastman had hoped that Carter would simply reject the committee's request and ruled that they are not entitled to see communications between an attorney and his client. The fact that they're willing to take a look, Judge Carter, that doesn't bode well. Not for Trump and Eastman, probably. The committee countered that it had uncovered evidence to show that Trump and Eastman may have committed crimes in their efforts to block the certification. Felonious crimes, not little crimes, big crimes. Political's Kyle Cheney noted that while Carter didn't reference the committee's allegations of potential crime against Eastman and Trump, he did say the committee raised enough doubts about Eastman's privilege claims to warrant the review. But of course, they said you got to go take a look at the privilege claims because they committed crimes. So the federal judge has not, let's just say, confirmed the criminality of the former president in his ruling, but he did say he's going to go review the emails.
Probably.
Do you think we're going to see the emails, the Eastman emails, kind of like the Gableman subpoenas? Only I think there's probably more there.
Wouldn't it be even more ironic if he got taken down by a set of emails that he got to have uncovered and seen? In
Hillary's emails? Any
emails?
You want to hear Stephen Miller? You remember the balding Nazi guy, the Trump guy?
Oh, yeah, the spray head guy.
Do you know he is great looking hair? He is suing the January 6th committee specifically
for being left out?
No, the block access to his phone records. But do you want to hear his novel legal defense? Former Trump advisor Stephen Miller on Wednesday sued to block a subpoena for his phone records from the House January 6th committee, arguing the panel's request was overly broad, in part because Miller's account is linked to a family phone plan shared with his parents. Miller's court filing listed a California real estate company, Carry and Drive Apartments, as his co-plaintiff, and states that the firm is the subscriber of the T-Mobile family plan. The guy doesn't pay for his own phone. Mommy and daddy are still giving him his cell phone.
Could he at least have gone in on the house with Mark Meadows and maybe shared a plan together? At least that would have, he worked with Mark Meadows at least.
Well, mobile's right in the name. It's the T-Mobile home plan, at least when Meadows and Miller would share it.
Look at the coverage map. It's everywhere.
So Miller apparently pays for the plan for their children, including him, like all the kids, because the Miller kids, they're special. Here is his legal pleading. Because Mr. Miller's phone number is included with other numbers assigned by T-Mobile to the family plan account in the absence of explicit instructions from the committee, It is possible that T-Mobile may respond to the subpoena by producing data from other numbers assigned to the family plan account. So are we worried that your grandpa was calling Trump on the day of the insurrection? Is that the concern here? Or is this maybe a little red herring? A little bit more. Miller's lawsuit claims his attorneys requested clarification from the select committee, the J6 committee, to make clear the panel only sought records associated with his phone number and not from the others shared on the account. Yeah, no kidding. No shift Sherlock. A little bit more here. According to the complaint, the panel subpoenaed T-Mobile last month for records related to Miller's cell phone number, not his parents, not the real estate apartments his parents might own, but his phone number for a 3-month period that included the November 3rd election. Former President Trump's baseless push to sow doubt about his defeat and the pro-Trump January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol. They're like messages relating to those things. A little bit more here. The committees, not community, although I'd like to think the committee is part of the community. The committee's pursuit of Miller's phone records come after the panel issued a separate subpoena to him in November that focused on the false statements he made in advance of Trump's false claims of widespread voter fraud. The panel seemed to portray Miller as central to Trump's messaging ahead of the January 6th rally, when the then president encouraged his supporters to fight like hell. Here is what they said. You and your team prepared President Trump's remarks for the rally on the ellipse on January 6th. You were at the White House that day, and you were with Trump when he spoke at the Stop the Steal rally. It's almost like Miller was right there in the center of the fishbowl. You know, it'd be a shame if his father-in-law's phone, T-Mobile home plan, you know, if the J6 found out he was calling what, porn sites?
Oh, that'd be a shame.
If your father or father-in-law, whoever has the family plan, if they're not guilty, what are you worried about? Oh yeah, you might be guilty. Come back. More devil's advocates. Charged, never convicted.
They'll go through court for years. At the end, there'll be who knows what
You're
happens.
under arrest, Trump.
The courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country?
No, they didn't.
Man.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7, WTTN 1580 AM, and the Devil Radio app.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil.
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Over the past 30 years, Chad's Design Build has grown and improved how we do things, but we've never lost sight of our commitment to be a great place to work, focused on quality renovations for outstanding clients. Paying a living wage and providing excellent benefits to promote work-life balance does in fact attract outstanding people, which helps to explain our stellar reputation. Thank you, Madison, for 30 amazing years, building a better world one remodeled home at a time. This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build.
Do you need to hire? Let Devil Radio help your business find the right candidate with our Help Wanted Half Minutes. Devil Radio will create a 30-second job listing for your business, play it on Devil Radio for the month, will feature your job listing during Afternoon Drive on Fridays, and will even publish your Help Wanted listing on Devil Radio 927.com's website, all for just $300 per month. If you're hiring, Devil Radio can help. Call today.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Rocker. Meet me at the new Dark Horse Art Bar in East Wash. Happy hour is Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. You pick the day. 2-for-1 rail drinks and slices of Sal's tomato pies for $1. Jimmy, it's happy hour at the Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington in Madison, across from the Sylvie.
Madison's newest happy hour, craft cocktail, local art and music. Find out more at the new Dark Horse Art Bar and Gallery, online at darkhorsemadison.com.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Dane County's choice for essential radio.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Announced moments before their attorneys were in court yesterday, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos stated the Wisconsin Assembly has come to terms on a new contract with Michael Gableman, whose original contract ended on December 31st. Gableman has been working without a contract for more than 2 months. In other contract extension news in Wisconsin yesterday, Aaron Rodgers announced he will be returning to the Green Bay Packers next year. Few details of either contract have been made available to the public. Construction crews will cause some lane and exit closures on the Beltline beginning this Sunday in the vicinity of Todd Drive due to the completion of the Flex Lane project by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. A mix of clouds and sunshine throughout the day today with winds from 10 to 15 miles an hour and a high of 32 degrees. Partly cloudy skies in the forecast this evening with an overnight low of 13 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, sliding into the Hump Day Happy Hour. We welcome back my co-devil, Dominic. How you doing, man?
Crudy, I'm fantastic. Good to see you. Fancy Brian back on the board. Good to see you as well. Evan, our fair audience, happy hour, happy Hump Day to us all.
I was just talking trash about you off air, Dom.
Yeah.
I pointed out when we first started this show, you were a lot more right than you are right now. I mean, and I don't mean correct because you were never correct, but I mean, let's say conservative. When Benghazi happened, you were very reactive on Benghazi. You were right there with Mitt Romney, and you were the conservative. You voted for Scott Walker in the recall, and there were lots of times where you were the voice of centrism, voice of libertarianism.
Come on, man. I emceed the Libertarian State Convention in 2016 here in Wisconsin. Yes.
And you had Gary Johnson there as the nominee, and he asked What is Aleppo? And I mean, come on, let's not be overly impressed. You invited me to speak at the Libertarian Party convention.
Well, that's just how we rolled, man. I had to cut the fee with you, man. You gotta show up and do something.
Oh, did I get paid that day? Yeah. One of the few times we ever got paid in radio.
Right.
Let's give it to the Libertarians. Let's hear it for them. I did a little stand-up material that day with the Libertarians. I gave them the old, you are truly the party of the 1.5%.
Yeah,
that's approximately their national support.
Yes.
And I heard you laughing, and I looked out in the room of dozens.
Literally dozens.
And you were probably the only one laughing, although I did get a smirk from Andy Craig, I think that guy's name was. Anyways, welcome back to the big show. Dom, I don't know if you heard the big breaking news this afternoon. I couldn't believe I got a breaking news alert from the Washington Post. And that this is the first I'm hearing that the former president of the United States, his life was in jeopardy Saturday night. He was on an airplane flying out of New Orleans, apparently some mega donor confab. And he spoke to him. And, he suggested we should put Chinese symbols on American F-22s, bomb out of Moscow. That was the big event. He was at that event.
Well, I mean, if you're going to nuke hurricanes, you may as well, slap on a false flag on your planes and, go bomb, the Russians and, blame it on the Chinese because that's really smart.
Well, he's just trolling. I'm just joshing, saying things for fun.
Really?
And giggles.
Sure?
But we heard the reporting of what was said right away. But what we didn't hear about was this near-death experience. Donald Trump was on the plane. They had left. They were 70 miles out of New Orleans, 28,000 feet, and pop, there goes a motor. There goes a motor. And I guarantee you of one thing, and I know only one thing in this world, Dom, Donald Trump crapped his pants.
As God is my witness.
It's a scary situation.
Turkeys can fly.
Here's how I know.
Turkeys can fly. Trump flies all the time.
The narcissist, always the victim, Donald Trump, right? The election was stolen from, the guy never stops complaining, rigged election, all that kind of crap. He's been whining and crying and claiming the victim card for the entirety of his presidency and beyond.
Hell, his life.
Yet somehow this news does not come to the public until like 5 days after it happened. There is only one clear explanation for why Donald Trump didn't immediately go out there and run out to the American people, the MAGA people, go on his, Truth social site and say, hey, you know what happened to me? Oh my God, I was a victim. It was probably the Democrats trying to scuttle my motor or something. Why didn't he tell the American people? He crapped his pants.
Shit my pants.
Yeah. He didn't want the information to get out publicly, Dom. That is conspiracy theory like Gableman's. I'd bet on mine before I'd believe Gableman's. I'm just saying. What do you think of my theory, Salvador?
Maybe.
Why didn't he tell us otherwise?
Well, I guess a good point. I'm not clear that Donald Trump shares everything with everybody all the time.
Well,
if it
let
doesn't
me
serve
tell
some
you.
purpose that will benefit Donald Trump. So either maybe you're right, maybe he crapped his pants, and hell, I can't imagine that I would be too fond of a plane engine blowing out at 26,000 feet. That
I would crap my pants. I'd be completely honest with you, Dom. If that ever happens to me, it's the last time I ever get on a big old jet airliner.
I would be concerned. I'm not sure I would defecate myself.
I would absolutely. I'm not a good flyer anyway.
So would you get behind the mic the next day after you landed safely, Crudy, and got back to the studio and tell the audience what happened?
Oh, no, I'd keep it as secret as possible. I wouldn't tell anybody. In fact, you wouldn't even know that I had airplane issues. I wouldn't tell anybody.
Well, given the
not if I crap my pants like Trump did.
Doesn't he wear the Depends anyway? It looks like he's got a little thick going on down there. So it could be just another day in the life, man.
Perhaps. Here is how Trump responded today when news broke that he had this pants crapping experience on Saturday night. He immediately started asking his supporters for money.
Oh,
you know why? Because of course,
he needs to buy a new plane.
He needs a new airplane.
Don't we all?
He said, I've been keeping this on the down low, but I've been refurbishing Trump Force One. You remember Trump Force One, don't you, Dom? That was the plane that had engine troubles in Nashville a couple of years back, and apparently had been sitting there needing some work. I had seen prior reporting. Maybe you were unexcused absence during those couple months, missed that big story. But anyways, the Trump plane has been grounded for a period of time.
Crudy, you can't spell broken without broke. Just saying, when he stops using, the government, the people's plane, Air Force One, things get a little more hairier for the guy. So now he's got to rely on his donors' planes. Okay.
Well, but he wants the donors, the little dollar donors, to give money to a super PAC.
Sounds like one of these evangelical types. Hey, God told you to give me some money or you're going to hell. Give me a plane. I need 2 planes. 2 planes. Call right now. Give me all your money. I mean, that's no wonder why the evangelicals love this guy. He's like a hack sermon.
Well, nothing will bring it closer to God than having an airplane engine blow out at 28,000 feet. Yeah. I'd be doing a little praying. Dom, I suspect even you might be finding God in that moment.
Doubtful.
That or crap in your pants.
Maybe, but doubtful.
My theory.
What is your theory, Fancy?
I think he started making out with Ivanka. I think he just said, it's over. I'm going to take it before I go. And we're done.
Well, if it wasn't Ivanka, it was any blonde stewardess that walked by. Sometimes
they're all named Ivanka in his mind.
That's terrible.
A little terrible, a little bad. 844-967-2789. The Eastman, the coup memo guy, Dom.
Yeah.
Another legal update as you joined me on the air this afternoon. The judge in that case, Carter, I believe his name, didn't say anything about the alleged illegality, the criminality of the former president, which was the rationale the J6 committee used why the Eastman memo should not be, shielded from the public view. And there was 111 emails. And apparently the judge is now going to review them personally and decide which ones contain criminality and should be released to the public. Because if they are criminal, then they're the crime fraud exemption,
right,
to attorney-client privilege. So the fact that he allowed this to proceed, even though he didn't say criminality, I heard criminality. How about you, Dom?
And of course, man, I mean, for Trump and Eastman to try to hide behind this. Well, we think that, this thing is unconstitutional. So this was just an effort to, bring this to light and challenge that. And if we did really well at it, then maybe we could go to the Supreme Court and, overturn it. That was really what we're trying to do. But of course, that gets blown away when everyone around him is telling him, no, that's not the case.
Dom, before we get to the eager callers in the queue at 844-967-2789, a couple other quick legal updates. Stephen Miller, the Nazi balding guy with the great looking hair. You remember that guy?
GLH means great looking hair. Yeah, the spray on guy.
Well, not only is he the spray on guy, he came up with the Trump policies of, taking the kids from their parents, sort of the Nazi guy. Well, anyways, that guy apparently, up to his bald head in the January 6th matter. And the
Shocking.
J6 committee apparently wants to subpoena his phone records, and he's trying to shield his records. And here's his novel rationale. Mom and dad pay for my phone.
It's a family plan.
It's a T-Mobile family plan, and therefore you can't have it. Because you might get dad's text messages to the mistress. What is the concern precisely?
Well, it's anything and everything to throw up and block and delay and fight because they know what they did. And they're going to use every angle they can to try to shield themselves from any sort of liability or criminality of their actions.
Well, let me tell you.
So if you got to blame it on the T-Mobile family plan with your parents, I mean, okay, but that's going to get thrown out. I mean, if that would be the case, perhaps dad's phone and mom's phone could be redacted. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? This is a legal pleading? Come on.
Well, Dominic, perhaps he's just trying to avoid being included in the interim report, if you know what I'm saying. And we're going to talk about Gableman as well. Do you see he didn't even serve a lot of those subpoenas?
Oh, Crudy, I tell you, I'm a little fired up. This morning, I got up and started perusing the 761 pages of this. Well, I mean, I knew it was a hack job, but it's just something and some of the reading. And Patrick Marley from the from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, fine journalist, mentioned lots and lots of times in this dump, along with some other characters that I did not know were specifically involved, and I want to get to some of that as well.
Oh, you did the homework. Also,
just a little bit.
I was going to give you a legal update on Madison Cawthorn. You remember the guy? Yeah. Apparently, he was arrested recently driving with a revoked driver's license in the state of North Carolina.
Lock him up. Lock him up.
Apparently, he's got a little speeding problem. Been pulled over doing 89 into 65, 87 into 70. He's going to have to call the general. He's going to have an SR-22 filing. More devils. We'll be back.
I've sentenced boys younger than you to the gas chamber. Didn't want to do it, because I owed it.
I'm scared, Daddy. Too scared to even wet my pants.
If you love them enough to barely sleep, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Feeling increasingly lonely right now? You're not alone. Try joining a virtual book club or scheduling an online coffee break with coworkers to connect.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
What is Aleppo? Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I used to just say you libertarians, you're what, Republicans that like to smoke weed? Now you just like to smoke weed. Sort of.
Oh, come on, man. The Libertarians were the first one. It was before the Dems. It was before the Republicans back in the late 80s, early 90s that were down with legal weed. So, of course, I gravitated to that philosophy. Finally, somebody spoke to me, Crudy.
Oh, they've been speaking to you. The voices have been talking to you for years. Dominic, I have shared your advocacy since the mid-80s. I'm doing a long-term longitudinal study. I have the sample size of one. And what a stunning sample I make. Who knew that, all this consumption would make me so sexy?
It blurs the vision, Crudy. It helps everybody. Before we get to the phones, we brought this up, and I want to kind of throw this out there. Of course, the judge
throw it out there.
Released all these documents.
Like a used pair of Trump pants coming off a plane trip from New Orleans.
761 pages. If you scroll through it, you will find on page 309, dated October 9th, a draft document, an inter-office memorandum written by Ron Heuer, Heuer. And if that name is familiar, Ron is the president of the Wisconsin's Voter Alliance, who has been involved in lawsuits against the Wisconsin Election
I've met
Commission.
Ron. I've met Ron at prior rallies led by Sheriff David A. Clark and, of course, Attorney Karkdahl. And let's not forget Janelle Branchin and, Tim Rantham. They were always in attendance, Tom.
Well, he may have been in attendance, but did you know he was also on the payroll to the cost of about $3,250 a month? So the guy, again, this goes to the point of the partisan nature of this investigation. All right, so bear with me for a minute. So the subject of this interoffice memorandum is the Office of Special Counsel Media Contact Policy. And let me read just one paragraph. Then we have a handwritten note from Gableman himself. And you think I got some bad chicken scratch. It took me a while to interpret this. But in the lower part of this document, it states how to handle information concerning stories about the investigation. All of us are constantly being bombarded with countless stories and publications and on the net about Mike Gableman's and or the investigation. If you sense that any of these articles need to be brought to Mike's attention, forward them to Peter Frickel at Proactive Communications. In the unlikely event,
are we paying Peter Frickel? We the taxpayers? Is he on the payroll as far as we know?
He is absolutely. From Proactive Communications. So number one, number two now, above and beyond the fact that you have the Wisconsin Voter Alliance on the payroll and also suing in the courts, right? Very partisan. You have now what? PR guys? Not just one, but two. Crudy, in the unlikely event, it is something urgent that appears to you to be damaging to the investigation. Immediately call or text Brian Fraley. Well, who is that? Well, he's the owner of Edge Messaging LLC. So we got a couple of PR guys in here, right? Along with the president of the Wisconsin Voters Alliance. And here is Gableman's comment. Peter and Brian, yesterday I spoke at length with both Ben Crumpler from Fox 11 in Green Bay and J.R. Ross of WisPolitics. It would be helpful if I could simply refer future contacts with them to N. Scott Bauer, anyone but Marley, Patrick Marley from the Journal Sentinel, to one or both of you. And we understand that I talk with the reporters only when you both recommend it and only after we have settled on the most appropriate message. Everyone but Marley should get as much info as possible, as often as possible, so that we look like what we all are: brave, honest, and transparent. You look like it, really? You are weak. You are lying hacks. I mean,
honest and transparent, Dom, except to Patrick Marley, of course, the probably most influential political journalist in the state of Wisconsin, and aside from you and I, of course,
and who's been on their case the whole time, requesting documents, as a good journalist should. But to hire Ron Hauer from Wisconsin Voter Alliance as a consultant to cost of the taxpayers, while he is also suing the WEC, this is not an objective investigation. I mean, we all know that, but this is the farthest thing from an objective investigation. It is literally like hiring O.J. Simpson to find the real killers of Ron and Nicole Brown. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? This is what we have. And they're still picking out furniture like in November for their office. This thing's supposed to be wrapped up. I mean, the guy's squatting in the place. He's hiring the plaintiffs in these lawsuits that have been getting batted down.
Liposuction office share. He's saving the taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, you know who Sharon also with? The Karkdahl attorney.
The Thomas More Society.
Yes. I mean, so it'd be one thing if there's even a sense of pretending to be objective. They are so not. It is so obvious, and just. And then to throw on top of that the fact that they didn't even go after follow through on the quote unquote subpoenas of all these people, probably because they didn't want to get into a big fight with them because they know they don't have it. Well, what did you say last week? Well, we'll get you an update on all those subpoenas soon, in a few days. How long ago was that? Where's the update? I mean, it is just a sham. It is a hack. It is a disgrace. And every day that this goes on, it makes Wisconsin and this country look small and weak and terrible.
Don't call me small, weak, or terrible. Reserve those things for, Republicans. All except for
sorry.
Gableman's head.
Brave, honest, and transparent.
I mean, clearly he's got a strong neck. He's got an enormous melon head. I mean, Fancy Brian was making that point before you joined us.
And
It's
Fancy
like a
Brian's
virtual
saying that
planetoid.
that's saying something, Brian.
I have a gigantic head myself. I know.
I know.
Yeah, but you got
6'8" with the afro.
The neck to match. Come back. More devil's advocates. Maybe we'll go to the phones. I see a few people in queue.
I don't
They've
have
been
a neck.
patient. What's that?
He doesn't have a neck.
I don't have a neck.
Size 42 neck. 844-967-2789. That goes with your size 80 jacket. Yes, let's all make fun of Gableman. You know what's all about Gableman, don't you?
You're all worthless and weak.
Shame on you.
What? Shame on you. You got nothing.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on the box.
Hey everyone, it's Abby with Downdrains Distilling. Come out to visit us and try our craft cocktails in our tasting room in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, open year-round. We also have a huge outdoor cocktail garden where we'll be hosting our first annual Bloody Mary Fest this March and other great events. Find Downdrains at your local liquor and grocery stores or stop into our tasting room in Cottage Grove. We're always family and pet friendly. For more information, go to downdrainsdistilling.com. That's downdrainsdistilling.com.
Pat Slattery here of Slattery's Automotive Service. Winter's coming, and that means now's the time for you to start thinking about snow tires. Travel winter roads with ease on Hakkapeliitta snow tires. Hakkapeliitta is the top-of-the-line snow tire, made in Finland and eco-friendly. If it's snowing, they'll get you there. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to get your set. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive.
Hospital bombed. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Ukrainian officials say a Russian airstrike hit a children's hospital and maternity facility in Mariupol. President Volodymyr Zelensky tweeting, there were people, children, under the wreckage of the hospital and called the strike an atrocity. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss.
The attack on the hospital is absolutely abhorrent, reckless and appalling.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says in the end,
I'm absolutely convinced that Putin will fail and Russia will suffer a strategic defeat, no matter what short-term tactical gains it may make in Ukraine.
An AP analysis finds more than 27,000 mail-in ballots in Texas. Some 17% of those cast were flagged for rejection in the state primaries. The first test of the state's new voting restrictions, jeopardizing votes cast by Democrats and Republicans alike in counties big and small. I'm Tim McGuire.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If Select Quote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, Governor Tony Evers signed on to a letter from a coalition of governors around the nation calling on Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for the remainder of the year. Also yesterday, the Wisconsin State Senate gavelled in and out of the special legislative session called by Governor Tony Evers last month that would have allowed debate among Wisconsin lawmakers on how to use the state's unprecedented $3.8 billion in tax surplus to assist Wisconsinites amid rising prices and the COVID-19 pandemic. Margaret Farrow, the first female lieutenant governor in Wisconsin history, passed away yesterday at the age of 87. On Tuesday, Wisconsin Badgers sophomore Johnny Davis was announced as the Big Ten Player of the Year, and UW's head coach Greg Gard received Coach of the Year after the Badgers finished the regular season with a share of the Big Ten title, despite ranking 10th in a preseason poll. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day Happy Hour. It rolls on. Your phone calls are probably welcome here at 844-967-2789. Although, some calls more welcome than others. I told you, I'm telling you the truth here. So, I see you, CJ. You may stew for a bit, but I see you. Dom, I wanted to throw this out there. We talked about Gableman. And as he was issuing his interim report and giving his public testimony, unlike the testimony he's requesting via subpoena, private testimony down at the liposuction clinic in Brookfield. But he gave some public testimony. And some of it was striking in its erroneous nature. And I want to bring one to your attention. Remember when he said there was 100% voter turnout at the nursing homes? And then later he kind of hedged a little and said 95 to 100%. Well, some people do math for a living. And Milwaukee Elections Commission Executive Director Claire Woodall-Vaugh questioned Gableman's claim of 100% turnout at some nursing homes in Milwaukee County. So she actually went to the voting records, Dom, the receipts, if you will. Here's what she found. Woodall, let me make sure I get her name right. Woodall-Vaugh looked at all nursing homes in the city, finding turnout collectively was 100%. No, 79%. That's substantially lower than 100%, like 20%.
Wrong!
Of the 32 she reviewed, 4 had turnout of more than 90%. The highest was 97%. So there is a singular incident that would actually clear the threshold that Gableman claimed was the overall turnout percentage, because, he's trying to make it sound real bad. Gableman's report said his office vetted 30 nursing homes in Milwaukee County, understanding there are only 32 in Milwaukee, as part of the review of the 2020 election. It didn't detail which ones were reviewed, and the Gableman report notes, as more facilities were studied, the percentages may change. It looked at 1,084 voters at 30 Milwaukee County homes. A Gableman spokesman didn't immediately return a call today seeking details on the erroneous math.
Oh, not immediately. I'm sure that's forthcoming.
Woodall, unless it's Patrick Marley asking, of course. Woodall-Vaugh said she began her review after Gableman made his claim. It includes 1,332 votes cast by residents at the 32 homes. That's all of the Milwaukee homes. She compared the number of votes cast at each home to the number of active registered voters at each facility on November 3rd, 2020. That produced a turnout of 79%. The spreadsheet she put together also includes the number of voters whose registrations are currently inactive, but were active on November 3rd, 2020. She said it's common for registrations to go inactive. Here's the sad part, Dom, as nursing home residents die or move. Her suspicion is Gableman compared the number of votes cast at some facilities to the number of currently registered voters. So he waited, 4 or 5 months, said how many people are currently registered to vote, and compared that with the number from 5 months ago, even though across the state, or across the county of Milwaukee or the city of Milwaukee, some people moved or died.
Was that wrong?
Pandemic going on, apparently. Even pulling out those registrations deactivated since November of 2020, the election would leave turnout at 93% collectively at the 32 homes in the city. I just got frustrated, she said, Woodall-Vaugh said, of Gableman's claim that prompted her to compile the spreadsheet. And WisPolitics offers the complete spreadsheet. She did the math. She brought the receipts. The actual voting tallies, if you look at the numbers, I thought they used to matter in elections.
Well, if you were actually trying to find out some information, and not just grift off of the Wisconsin taxpayers? Maybe. But Crudy, let me bring it back around for you. Ron Hauer, Heuer, the president of the Wisconsin Voters Alliance, who was a $3,250 a month paid investigator for Gableman. Well, he was the investigator specializing, quote, on page 334 of the document dump from the judge, specializing in the nursing home and elder abuse leads. And what is Ron Hauer's background to qualify him for such a prestigious role? Well, according to the LinkedIn, Ron has spent the last 43 years in the U.S. leisure travel arena in various executive senior positions. I mean, really? You think his background in his leisure industry qualified him, or was the fact that he was, in charge of Wisconsin Voters Alliance? I mean, come on, man. It is such a fiasco.
Dominic, under a Republican administration, he's nearly qualified to head up FEMA.
Way to go, Brownie. Hell of a job.
844-967-2789. CJ, you've been very patient. I want to hear you defend either Trump not crapping his pants or the Gableman report. Your choice. What do you got for us, CJ?
Hi, CJ.
Wow, what an option.
Do you think Trump probably crapped his pants, CJ? I mean, let's be honest. I would have had I been at 28,000 feet and a plane blew its motor, I would have defecated. I'm just saying.
Well, I would have hoped that I was wearing diapers myself, I guess. But
well, that's the good thing for Trump then, CJ.
While I was on the plane, that'd be pretty scary. You guys I love your show, but it's kind of like watching The View. Did you know we're almost ready to go to a third world war? You guys haven't mentioned Ukraine or our failed president since you started talking. I can't believe it.
Well, now you brought it up, CJ. What's your point?
Yeah, you have a question. What would you like to discuss?
You're actually concerned about taxpayers wasting their money on an investigation?
Yes.
Yes. You used to be too, CJ.
If it was the investigation of Scott Walker's illegal campaign coordination with third-party groups, I think they called that the John Doe. CJ, you'd have an entirely different tune going on. And don't tell me suddenly you're calling in sympathy for the Ukrainian people.
Yes, exactly. I'm very concerned about him because of this failed president and his.
I thought your guy was on Team Putin.
Your guy was the one that was supposed to be able to go toe to toe with him, remember? And he won. Who's president right now?
All right, CJ, let me ask you a question. What would you like to see done? If it was you or Donald Trump or your Republican president, what reaction would you have? What would you suggest right now?
You know what? It never would have happened.
Well, that's not the answer.
Yeah, right. I mean,
all
right, so, but it did.
Never.
Okay, but here's where we're at. Maybe it wouldn't have happened because Putin had Trump in the White House.
Georgia happened in 2008 under Bush, dude. It's not like Russia's never been aggressive.
Well, I mean, listen, it's one thing to criticize, CJ, but what's your solution? I mean, I got a couple of thoughts, but I want to hear what you have to say.
They're 2 steps behind as usual. They're now considering cutting off energy and money to Putin.
He said that yesterday, CJ. Where were you when Biden made the announcement nationally that we're cutting off Russian
bipartisan agreement, CJ, by the way, but please continue.
You know what? We pumped 1.2 million barrels more in 2019 than we do right now. This executive order, Putin watched Biden in Afghanistan, guys. You can whitewash it all you want, but this president and
you're complaining about us, and you're still talking and whining about Afghanistan, CJ. You got to get a new playlist.
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, CJ, do you agree with Trump? Should we just paint our F-16s and our jets and our stealth? I'm not sure if we have stealth jets going in there. What matter an insignia would be on it to fool the Russians to think it was China? I mean, is that? That's what your former commander-in-chief, that was his bright idea, CJ. So unless you come back with something besides an asinine comment like that, if you have criticism, I get it, man. These are tough spots. But I tell you what, I'm so glad that this guy, Biden, is in office and not the last guy. because at least Biden can bring some community, bring Europe together. This has been a foreign policy victory in that sense. Now, obviously, you have
Trump
a
would have
nuclear
withdrawn from NATO in his second term.
He tried to do it right off the bat, and you have a nuclear power invading a non-nuclear power. And if we start bombing, if we do a no-fly zone, quote unquote, I mean, we are now engaging directly with another nuclear power. And CJ, I'd really like to know how you think that ends. But you're gonna have to call in again some other time.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
844-967-2789.
Bobby, look, I'm the military.
Mark from the SAC, welcome back. What do you got?
Hey, Mark.
Oh God, bite me, CJ. Try getting your facts straight. I think we've got oil companies have not exercised 9,000 leases that they have already, and they have the capacity to be pumping more oil at this moment right now within our borders than they are actually doing, and refining more in these borders than they're actually doing. So just bite me on that policy, CJ.
Well, and if I may, real quick, Mark, before you go on your next point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because CJ said, we're pumping this oil. Who's the we, dude? I mean, and you're talking about what? The U.S. government? We're not Russia, right? Trump doesn't control what Exxon does, nor does Biden. If anything, those guys have a little more influence on Trump and Biden. So it's not like, these are companies that run their businesses. You cannot dictate to them legally in this country as to how many gallons they must pump or how many barrels they must pump. Go ahead, Mark.
Absolutely, and for it's no wonder that Gableman can't get the bottom to anything, because this bottom is so ample he can't get to the bottom of anything. That it's just ridiculous. You're listing the facts there on the numbers that Gableman can't get right. And I took a quick look last night trying to find out how many communities in Wisconsin took the Zuckerberg money. I saw 216, I think is the figure I saw, and all I saw when I first went in is the Zuckerberg 5, and all these friggin' right-wing websites and newsletters. They're pumping this up, trumping about the Zuckerberg 5 and all the fraud there and the fraud there. And those are the outlets that Gableman is turning to and calling that research. I mean, the Milwaukee County person, Milwaukee City, Milwaukee person went on to did actual number crunching with actual data at the nursing homes and came up with the correct numbers. I mean, Gableman is, like you said, Gableman isn't doing anything except this largesse that he's giving out to all these right-wing idiots and hacks that are out there and just doing a hack job, taking advantage of us. And for the furniture, he brought that up. I says, this is not a permanent position. This is not a permanent office, even though it's going to probably turn into it. You should be renting this equipment or renting the facility. It's actually got the furniture there. All it should be bringing in is some laptops and maybe a cushion to sit on the chair because his ass is too fat to fit on the.
Mark, with that colorful thought, we're going to move on. Dominic, you mentioned Brian Fraley, the PR guy. Well,
Edge messaging, yes.
I looked up Brian Fraley. Well, he was doing all the way back in the Scotty Walker days. He was doing a little writing for the Right Wisconsin.
Yes.
Right Wisconsin. That used to be Charlie Sykestain, and then the heavyset guy looks a little like Gableman, could die on the toilet. We weren't always
Widgerton.
Yeah. Well, apparently Widgerton couldn't make a financial go of it. Didn't have the same sort of support from the white.
Well, I think Widgerton has actually pushed back a little bit against the crazy.
Well, that was
righties,
his first crime,
and that was his first mistake, right? So he now he's to my understanding, he's pushed back a little bit. But I mean, if this were an actual investigation, all these investigators that are on the payroll would have to recuse themselves. I mean, because they're involved in partisan biased activity. This is not an objective. It's not an investigation. Let's just put it out there. The judge said it. Everyone should look at these documents. Every man, every woman should look at these documents and determine for themselves. There's jack squat there. So this is just a grift. It is a grift to give guys, the big grifter like Trump, a reason to tweet at Robin Voss yesterday. I can't tweet, but make the message. Highly respected Gableman, Wisconsin, do the right thing. That's all this is. It's a joke. It's not an investigation. It's a joke. End it now, people. Good God.
No, CJ still believes and his heart apart. He believes rigged election stolen.
Hallelujah, baby.
Come back, more devils. You can believe that, CJ.
What did we do wrong? We did nothing wrong.
He called me fat and said I was going to die on the toilet.
Wrong!
The data you have is wrong.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I wonder who that is, honey.
Hugs with family.
Grandma and Grandpa's here.
Get over here. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
I miss you so much, Grandpa.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice hard seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, minocquabrewingcompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice hard seltzer.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Hey, man, is that freedom rock? Yeah, man. Well, turn it up, man.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Take your calls at 844-967-2789. Fancy Brian, you know, a great song, but also what I really endears to me, it reminds me of the ending of Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a fantastic walkout.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you somehow worked Jimmy Kaye and Rocker into our fine show as well. They're the Freedom Rock guys, right?
I would not be surprised.
The Max Inc. Radio playing out Saturday nights live right here on Devil Radio. Goes live at 6, gets heavy at 10. Tune in every Saturday night and replays on Sunday. Don, we've got some callers. Should we get back to them?
Yeah, I just want to point out quickly. I did see a tweet from what's his name, Josh Dawsey. He's with the Washington Post. Apparently, the RNC chair Ronna McDaniel testified before the January 6th committee today.
Did she plead the fifth?
We don't have any details yet, but that's an interesting note.
Interesting development. There's an interesting article over at the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. Bruce Thompson, he's the data wonk. The headline of the article, and I'm not going to share it because we want to take the callers, but it's Michael Gableman versus the facts. And
facts win, baby.
Something that Thompson points out in this is it's effective. The Gableman report, this undermining of faith in the elections. If you look at the Marquette University Law School polling, a lot of Republicans believe.
Yeah, man, propaganda works. We know this. I mean, Trump's been doing it. We're fine. It's one thing for Trump to do it with campaign dollars. It's an entirely separate situation when he used tax dollars from the state of Wisconsin to fund the propaganda. I mean, this is a disgrace.
Yes, I concur, Doctor. So anyways, it's worth a read. It's a little too wonky for what we do here.
It's the data wonk.
Yeah, charts don't translate well to radio. 844-967-2789. Our pal Pizza the Box. Welcome back, Michael. What do you got for us?
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Yeah, I guess you can throw that fiscal conservative stuff right out the window, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. How long ago was that? Was that pre-Scott Walker or was that like pre-Donald Trump? DJ?
Fiscal conservative? Did you see the newest report about taxation in the state of Wisconsin? Since 1980, the state's taxes on the bottom 20% of earners have doubled. The state's top 1% of earners have seen a 30% reduction in their taxes. Thank you to the manufacturer and agricultural tax giveaway. I mean, rich people get a 30% tax cut, and poor people have had their taxes doubled since 1980 in the state of Wisconsin, Michael.
Terrible.
Well, who's the president? Whoa. Oh, never mind. You got me off there a little bit. And I thought another thing, that pumping oil was like the worst thing that we could be doing during climate change. But hey, let's rock on and war on, everybody. And lastly, CJ, you show more empathy for people you don't know from Ukraine, inner city children from Ukraine, but not inner city children from Milwaukee. And I guess we know what that's all about, right? You ain't brown, you can't come to town, huh?
That's a bitch, Mike. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it. It is an interesting observation that so many of these Republicans, but not just CJ, but Republican electeds in general. Remember, if we go back in the way back time machine to like, I don't know, a week or two ago.
Sorry,
a week or two ago, and they were all Putin's, he's smart and savvy, right? I mean, that is what the 2024 presidential Republican leading nominee as of right now, said about Putin like 10 days ago.
And then he doubled down, and then he tripled down. And then he said, well, we should fake an attack from the Chinese just by slapping sticks.
Yeah, but it's the current president who's doing a terrible job. I mean, I cannot even imagine what would be going on if Trump was still president.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the Republicans now think we should just assassinate Putin. The fact that we're not assassinating a foreign leader at this point, just shows weakness on Joe Biden's part.
Yeah, weak Joe.
844-967.
I think we should just send some ninjas in. I mean,
cyber ninjas, Tom. I mean, I hear they've wrapped things up in Maricopa County.
Yeah, it's all done.
Do you think that's Gableman's underlying?
No, I'm pretty sure
he's trying to avoid the cyber ninja draft.
What?
Where he might be sent overseas.
The cyber ninjas wrapped up, dude. Right? I mean, Gableman's making a life out of this thing. And they're literally
otherwise.
Just on page 79, just a quick note. Here's a quote. We've got the cyber ninja team on hold, and we can move to get things done if we can get Tim and Mike talking. I mean, this
activate the cyber ninjas, baby.
You guys got to understand, he's got to stay there until squatters' rights kick in.
You can't kick him out when it's like too cold out. You got to wait till spring.
Eviction policies and all that kind of stuff. 844-967-2789. Dick from Madison and the Garage. You get the final word, probably. What is it, Dick?
Hey, Dick.
Well, guys, I just kind of wonder, with everything that's going on with this situation, with this war, has anybody asked the question I said this morning to Stu, if this situation, or I'm talking about Putin, this is a better world. This is the way it should go. Has anybody asked the question that, if it's so much better, why are these people fighting to the death to not go back to what they've seen?
Dick,
Dick, because they don't know what they're missing. They just don't know. Just ask the Republicans and their thoughts about black voters and voting Republican.
I think Dick's got a few less cold ones in the fridge out in the garage these days. Appreciate you listening all the way to the end, Dick. But if you've done a little day drinking, man, you can let off.
Hey, it's happy hour. Knock yourself out. Thanks for the call, Dick.
Dick, like I said, barely screened. Appreciate you all listening. Thank you to Harvey Kaye, my fine co-Harvey. and Dominic, of course, and Fancy Brian and Evan and you for listening. Don't forget, showing up in Waukesha on Friday, and I'm bringing former U.S. Attorney James Santel with me.
Oh, I may have to show up, Crudy.
You claimed you were coming, man. That's how I
all
talked
right.
Jim into coming down.
It's a party, baby.
It'll be a party if Maggie Dawn shows. We'll see.
We'll see.
That'll be Friday's big show. Tomorrow could be chaos. We don't know yet. I haven't started booking it yet. Yeah, about noon tomorrow, I'll start digging in. I expect you to be back, and Fancy Brian, and you, Evan.
Always. It's a happy hour, man. I'm Devil's Advocates. This is my new jam, baby.
And a final thought for all our fair listeners. Donald Trump absolutely crapped his pants. Just saying. Have a great night.
Wrong! Stop shaking your head again.
Nothing goes over my head.
Well, that's a huge noggin. It's a virtual planetoid. Has its own weather system. Heat! Move!
That's disgusting. Put it away, please.
Shit my pants.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone